Chapter 232. On the southeast side of the island was a stone slope with a circumference of several miles. There were some vines growing sparsely on the stone slope. Lu Ping was carefully searching for something on the stone slope. From time to time, he would sweep it with his divine sense, trying to find some clues, but to no avail. Just then, two naturally raised boulders on the stone slope not far away attracted Lu Ping's attention. Lu Ping swept the ground between the two boulders with his divine sense, but found nothing. Lu Ping walked over and pushed away the vines on the ground, revealing a slanted crack below. This crack could barely allow one person to pass through sideways. He did not know what the rocks on both sides of the crack were, but they could actually prevent Lu Ping's divine sense from perceiving the existence of this crack. Lu Ping couldn't be bothered to examine the rocks anymore. He turned sideways and entered the crack. After some thought, he didn't cover the crack with the vines. Instead, he purposely left the crack open so that the cultivators standing on the slope could see it at a glance. This crack went dozens of feet deep into the stone slope, and there were several turns in the middle. It was unknown how the leading cultivator at that time found such a secret place. Lu Ping patiently passed through the crack, and his vision, which had been dim before, suddenly brightened. A strong fragrance of flowers had monopolized Lu Ping's sense of smell, and then a colorful land shrouded in a pink mist occupied Lu Ping's vision. It was a sea of flowers, all kinds of plants were blooming with flowers of different colors. At the same time, a faint pink mist rose from nowhere, permeating this large space of beautiful plants. And in this lingering pink mist, from time to time, there were traces of black qi playing in it. This was the secret place where the 100 Flowers evil spirit was born, and the black mist in it was the highly poisonous 100 Flowers miasma. He had to speed up. Wang Yishan, senior martial brother Qi and the others behind him would soon find this place. Lu Ping himself was only able to walk ahead of the others by relying on the map. Moreover, in order not to let others notice the rocks on both sides of the crack, Lu Ping deliberately pushed away the vines hiding the crack. The 100 Flowers evil spirit and the 100 Flowers miasma grew together. The 100 Flowers evil spirit was used by cultivators to condense wood gang qi, while the 100 Flowers miasma was the opposite. Without a certain method to separate the two, cultivators could only look at the 100 Flowers evil spirit in front of them and sigh. Lu Ping didn't need the 100 Flower slaughter qi to condense his energy, and the 100 Flower miasma couldn't stop him from venturing deeper into the land of flowers. On the contrary, the 100 Flower miasma was formed by the poison of the flowers over a long period of time, and it was a great supplement to the 1000 Poison Meteorite Essence Shield. Lu Ping propped up the golden-colored myriad poison meteorite energy to immediately push away the pink mist. Then, he quickly moved deeper into the land of flowers. The moment the strands of black qi made contact with the golden-colored astral energy, they would slowly be devoured. As Lu Ping moved deeper into the land of flowers, the pink mist grew thicker and the 100 Flowers miasma grew thicker. Gradually, the pink mist was dyed with a layer of enchanting black-gray. However, Lu Ping's footsteps did not slow down in the slightest. On the contrary, the golden-colored astral energy grew brighter. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat and he opened the 1000-bell millet. The golden myriad poison liquid in the green stone vat immediately stirred and a fist-sized colorless liquid floated up from the golden myriad poison liquid. The liquid swirled around the green stone vat and the black miasma hidden in the pink 100 Flower fiend qi seemed to be attracted by the liquid. Wisps of the miasma separated from the miasma and gathered towards the 1000-bell millet. The miasma slowly formed a small black cloud above the green stone vat. The black cloud grew thicker and thicker. From afar, it looked like a dark cloud that was about to rain. Lu Ping was overjoyed. He took out a mid-grade bottle-shaped magic artifact. This magic artifact was something Lu Ping had obtained when he was in the blood-refining realm. Normally, he used it to water the spirit grasses and spirit trees in the 1000-bell millet. Later, Lu Ping asked second senior sister Li Xuanru for some firmament stone powder to upgrade Chen Lian to a mid-grade magic artifact. The space inside was more than doubled. Lu Ping cast a few hand seals at the mystic instrument, and the 100-flower miasma in the surroundings that was absorbed by the myriad poison syrup immediately gathered into the mystic instrument. The 100-flower miasma was the best kind of miasma for wood elemental cultivators. In fact, Lu Ping could also use his own evil spirit qi to collect and refine the 100 flowers miasma. However, the speed was obviously not comparable to the myriad poison liquid and the nameless spirit water. Moreover, Lu Ping was racing against time. How could he afford to waste time? The 1,000-bell millet and the jade bottle were suspended above Lu Ping's head, following Lu Ping as he walked through the mist of the land of 100 flowers. However, Lu Ping did not focus on collecting the 100 flowers miasma and the 100 flowers miasma. Instead, he seemed to be looking for something. At this moment, a buzzing sound came from the 1,000-bell millet above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping was stunned for a moment. Then, as if he had thought of something, he smiled and said, "How could I forget about them?" Stretching out a finger, the 1,000-bell millet seemed to have released a restriction. Suddenly, more than 200 purple bees the size of a thumb rushed out from inside, scrambling to be the first to fly into the surrounding sea of flowers. These were the hundreds of purple crystal bee eggs that Lu Ping obtained from Ai Shu Tao in the 7-star sky. The bee eggs had long been hatched by Lu Ping. During this time, once Lu Ping settled down, he would release them out to visit flowers and collect honey. When the purple crystal bees had not reached the mature stage, compared with the ordinary demonic bees, there was nothing special about them other than their slightly larger size. Therefore, Lu Ping was not afraid of being recognized by someone. However, the brewing requirements for purple crystal honey were quite high. At least, the purple crystal bees needed to collect nectar from flowers and plants that were more than 100 years old. Moreover, this was also a kind of cultivation process for the purple crystal bees. However, in the past 2 years, Lu Ping had been running around and rarely had a long time to settle down. Therefore, this group of demonic bees was not successful. Until now, they had not advanced to the first layer of blood refining realm. At this time, Lu Ping went deep into the land of 100 flowers. The fragrance of flowers filled the air. Flowers and plants that were more than 100 years old were common. Lu Ping even found a lot of spirit herbs. However, because he was looking for a possible treasure, he did not have the time to collect them. However, when Lu Ping opened the 1,000-bell millet, this group of purple crystal bees found an opportunity. After Lu Ping released the restriction on the 1,000-bell millet, they all flew towards the sea of flowers. The purple crystal bees fed on nectar and collected the spirits of the flowers. Naturally, they ignored the baleful aura and miasma of the flowers. After a while, the purple crystal bees began to fly back. Not long after, hundreds of purple crystal bees went in and out of the 1,000-bell millet above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping discovered that every time the purple crystal bees went in and out, the faint demonic aura around their bodies became thicker. If there was enough time, it would not be a problem to raise these 200 purple crystal bees to the first layer of blood refining realm. At this moment, in the thick fog ahead, the vague shadow of a huge tree appeared. This huge tree was particularly outstanding among the plants in the land of 100 flowers. "This is it," Lu Ping said happily. Chapter 233. On the southeast side of the island was a stone slope with a circumference of several miles. There were some vines growing sparsely on the stone slope. Lu Ping was carefully searching for something on the stone slope. From time to time, he would sweep it with his divine sense, trying to find some clues, but to no avail. Just then, 2 naturally raised boulders on the stone slope not far away attracted Lu Ping's attention. Lu Ping swept the ground between the 2 boulders with his divine sense, but found nothing. Lu Ping walked over and pushed away the vines on the ground, revealing a slanted crack below. This crack could barely allow a person to pass through sideways. He did not know what the rocks on both sides of the crack were, but they could actually prevent Lu Ping's divine sense from perceiving the existence of this crack. Lu Ping did not have time to check these rocks, but entered the crack sideways. After thinking about it, he did not cover the crack with the vines again, but deliberately exposed the crack so that the cultivators standing on the stone slope could see it at a glance. This crack went dozens of feet deep into the stone slope, and there were several turns in the middle. It was unknown how the leading cultivator at that time found such a secret place. Lu Ping patiently passed through the crack, and his vision, which had been dim before, suddenly brightened. A strong fragrance of flowers had monopolized Lu Ping's sense of smell, and then a colorful land shrouded in a pink mist occupied Lu Ping's vision. It was a sea of flowers, all kinds of plants were blooming with flowers of different colors. At the same time, a faint pink mist rose from nowhere, permeating this large space of beautiful plants. And in this lingering pink mist, from time to time, there were traces of black qi playing in it. This was the secret place where the 100 Flowers evil spirit was born, and the black mist in it was the highly poisonous 100 Flowers miasma. He had to speed up. Wang Yishan, senior marshal brother Qi and the others behind him would soon find this place. Lu Ping himself was only able to walk ahead of the others by relying on the map. Moreover, in order not to let others notice the rocks on both sides of the crack, Lu Ping deliberately pushed away the vines hiding the crack. The 100 Flowers evil spirit and the 100 Flowers miasma grew together. The 100 Flowers evil spirit was the best material for cultivators to condense wood property gang qi, while the 100 Flowers miasma was the opposite. Without a certain method to separate the two, cultivators could only look at the 100 Flowers evil spirit in front of them and sigh. Lu Ping could not use the 100 Flowers evil spirit to condense gang qi, and the 100 Flowers miasma could not stop Lu Ping from entering this land of flowers. On the contrary, the 100 Flowers miasma was formed by the poison of flowers over a long time, which was a great supplement for the myriad poison meteoric power. Lu Ping propped up the golden-colored myriad poison meteoric power to immediately push away the pink mist. Then, he quickly moved deeper into the land of flowers. The moment the strands of black miasma made contact with the golden-colored myriad poison meteoric power, they would slowly be devoured. As Lu Ping moved deeper into the land of flowers, the pink mist grew thicker and the 100 Flowers miasma grew thicker. Gradually, the pink mist was dyed with a layer of enchanting black-gray. However, Lu Ping's footsteps did not slow down in the slightest. On the contrary, the golden-colored myriad poison spirit grew brighter. With a thought, Lu Ping opened the 1,000-bell millet. The golden myriad poison spirit liquid in the bluestone vat immediately became restless. A fist-sized colorless liquid floated up from the golden myriad poison spirit liquid and circled around the bluestone vat. The black miasma hidden in the pink 100 Flowers evil spirit liquid seemed to be attracted. Wisps of it separated from the mist and gathered towards the 1,000-bell millet. It slowly formed a small black cloud above the bluestone vat. The black cloud grew thicker and thicker. From a distance, it looked like a dark cloud that was about to rain. Lu Ping was overjoyed. He took out a mid-grade bottle-shaped magic tool. This magic tool was something Lu Ping obtained when he was in the blood-refining realm. Normally, he used it to water the spirit grasses and spirit trees in the 1,000-bell millet. Later, Lu Ping asked second senior sister Li Xuanru for some firmament stone powder to upgrade Chen Lian to a mid-grade magic tool. The space inside was more than doubled. Lu Ping cast a few hand seals at the mystic instrument. The 100 Flower miasma in the surroundings was immediately drawn into the mystic instrument by the myriad poison syrup. The miasma was the best kind of miasma for wood elemental cultivators to condense their energy into. In fact, Lu Ping could also use his own astral energy to collect and refine the 100 Flowers evil spirit liquid. However, the speed was obviously not comparable to the myriad poison spirit liquid and the nameless spirit water. Moreover, Lu Ping was racing against time. He could not afford to waste time. The 1,000-bell millet and the jade bottle were suspended above Lu Ping's head. They followed Lu Ping as he walked through the mist of the land of 100 flowers. However, Lu Ping did not put his mind on collecting the 100 flowers evil spirit liquid and the 100 flowers evil spirit liquid. Instead, he seemed to be looking for something. At this moment, a buzzing sound came from the 1,000-bell millet above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping was stunned for a moment. Then, as if remembering something, he smiled and said, "How could I forget about them?" Stretching out a finger, the 1,000-bell millet seemed to have released a restriction. Suddenly, more than 200 purple bees the size of a thumb rushed out from inside, scrambling to be the first to fly into the surrounding sea of flowers. These were the hundreds of purple crystal bee eggs that Lu Ping obtained from Ai Shu Tao in the 7-star sky. The bee eggs had long been hatched by Lu Ping. During this time, once Lu Ping settled down, he released them to look for flowers and collect honey. When the purple crystal bee had not reached the mature stage, compared with the ordinary bees that were raised, there was nothing special about them other than their slightly larger size. Therefore, Lu Ping was not afraid of being recognized by someone. However, the brewing requirements for purple crystal bee honey were quite high. At least, the purple crystal bees needed to collect nectar from flowers that were more than 100 years old. Moreover, this was also a kind of cultivation process for the purple crystal bees. However, in the past 2 years, Lu Ping had been running around and rarely had a long time to settle down. Therefore, this swarm of demonic bees was not successful. Until now, they had not advanced to the first layer of the blood-refining realm. At this time, Lu Ping went deep into the land of 100 flowers. The fragrance of flowers filled the air. Flowers that were more than 100 years old were common. Lu Ping even found a lot of spirit herbs. However, because he was looking for a possible treasure, he did not have the time to collect them. However, when Lu Ping opened the 1,000-bell millet, this swarm of purple crystal bees found an opportunity. After Lu Ping released the restriction on the 1,000-bell millet, they all flew towards the sea of flowers. The purple crystal bees fed on nectar and collected the spirits of the flowers. Naturally, they ignored the baleful aura and miasma of the flowers. After a while, the purple crystal bees began to fly back. Not long after, hundreds of purple crystal bees went in and out of the 1,000-bell millet above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping discovered that every time the purple crystal bees went in and out, the faint demonic aura around their bodies became thicker. If there was enough time, it would not be a problem to raise these 200 purple crystal bees to the first layer of the blood-refining realm. At this moment, in the thick fog ahead, the vague shadow of a huge tree appeared. This huge tree was particularly outstanding among the plants in the land of 100 flowers. "This is it," Lu Ping said happily. Chapter 234. This was a huge tree that was twice the height of an ordinary peach tree. The entire tree crown covered an area of 7 to 8 feet. The crown was divided into 3 distinct layers. The bottom layer was hidden by the branches and leaves, revealing 18 huge peaches the size of a human head. The middle layer was filled with strange pink peach blossoms, and at the top, there were hundreds of pink flower buds that were about to bloom. Just as Lu Ping was about to approach, 3 peach branches fell from the tree, and then strangely flew towards Lu Ping. Just when Lu Ping didn't know what was going on, these 3 branches came smashing towards Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping realized that these 3 peach branches actually had a faint demonic spiritual force. Peach tree turned into a demon. This peach tree actually cultivated into a demon. In the demon race, the most difficult thing to cultivate are plants, trees, bamboo, and stones. Even the 7th patriarch didn't leave behind many systematic cultivation techniques for these demons. Therefore, the majority of plants, trees, bamboo, and stones can only instinctively accumulate the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Often, before they can awaken, they would be refined by cultivators into pills, magic tools, and other items to aid in cultivation. Therefore, plants, trees, bamboo, and stones are the most difficult to cultivate. Even if they cultivate into a demon, becoming a demon, their strength is usually weak, and most of them are at the mercy of others. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ping grabbed the 3 peach branches in his hand. He shook off the trace of demonic spiritual force contained within them, and continued to walk towards the peach tree. Another 5 peach branches fell from the tree, and once again smashed towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It seems that this peach tree demon only cultivated and awakened on its own, and doesn't know any cultivation techniques. This method of using peach branches to hit people must be something that it figured out on its own. Lu Ping once again grabbed the 5 peach branches in his hand. This time, one of the branches suddenly exploded with demonic spiritual force, and almost broke free from Lu Ping's hand. What a clever peach blossom tree demon. It actually knows how to use this method to attack me. It almost broke free from my grip. Lu Ping looked at the special branch in his hand and realized that its spirituality was hidden. It was different from the other branches. It was a mutated 1,000-year peach tree branch. 2nd grade spiritual material. There were generally 3 ways for plants, trees, bamboo, and rocks to cultivate into a demon. The first way was to be enlightened by an expert and be taught the way of cultivation. The second way was to be bestowed with spirituality by a spirit object of heaven and earth, awakening the spirituality and knowing how to cultivate on its own. The third way was the most difficult. It required the plants, trees, bamboo, and rocks to rely on their instincts to accumulate spiritual energy over a long period of time and awaken on their own. It usually took thousands of years, and no accidents could happen during the process. Lu Ping had originally thought that this peach blossom tree demon had awakened on its own in this sealed place, and belonged to the third scenario. However, this mutated peach blossom tree demon clearly showed that this peach blossom tree demon had been nourished by a spirit object for a long period of time, and only then did it give birth to spirituality. This peach blossom tree demon had a spirit treasure. Lu Ping's spirit rose from head to toe, and he quickly walked towards the peach tree. At this time, the peach blossom tree demon seemed to have sensed the danger, and its entire crown began to tremble. The leaves rustled as if a baby was crying helplessly. A feeling of fear and sorrow suddenly spread out. 3 bright red peaches fell from the tree and slowly flew towards Lu Ping. This helpless feeling of begging Lu Ping to let it go was sensed by Lu Ping's divine sense. Lu Ping finally arrived in front of the peach tree. He took the 3 peaches and looked at the first branch of the peach tree. He saw a protrusion half a foot in size growing out of the branch. At first glance, it looked like a thick piece of bark. Psychic wood. It was actually a low-tier earth-class psychic wood. No wonder this peach tree was only 1,000 years old, but it was able to awaken its spirit light and turn into a monster. This psychic wood was the best at enlightening monsters. To grass, wood, bamboo, and stone, a low-tier earth-class psychic wood was even more precious than a heaven-class spirit treasure. The peach blossom tree demon was still trembling, and Lu Ping's mischievous heart was aroused. He purposely reached out and patted the trunk of the peach tree. The peach blossom tree demon shook even more violently, and the peach petals began to fall. Lu Ping's joking heart was over, and he used his divine sense to explore the peach tree. He immediately found a spirit light hiding in the trunk, playing hide and seek with Lu Ping. With Lu Ping's powerful divine sense, he was able to block this spirit light in an instant. At the same time, he sent out a kind message to comfort this spirit light that was a bit scattered due to fear. At the same time, he sent out all kinds of positive and friendly messages to the spirit light through his divine sense. It was unknown what Lu Ping said to the peach blossom tree demon, but after about the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Lu Ping's palm finally left the trunk. Then he placed the 1,000-bell millet on the ground, and the entire 1,000-bell millet suddenly expanded into a huge spirit herb garden. Lu Ping took out Debao from the spirit beast bag and had it drill into the ground to help him cast spells. Debao, who was proficient in earth spells, was a great help at this moment. With a loud rumble, the entire land of 100 Flowers trembled. Lu Ping and Debao lifted the entire peach tree, along with the soil underneath it, and placed it into the Qianzhong millet. Almost half of the space inside the 1,000-bell millet was occupied by the crown of the peach tree. Compared to it, the golden nut fruit tree was like a dwarf under a giant. Debao tried its best to climb out of the big hole created by the transplanted peach tree. Then, it laid on the ground and didn't want to move at all. Lu Ping grabbed Debao's beard and lifted it up. Debao squeaked in pain, but Lu Ping ignored it and said, "Look, I've only done this much, and my magic power is already used up. It seems like the special training last time didn't work very well." Debao looked at the big hole that was 70 feet deep and more than 100 feet wide. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Shouldn't his magic power be used up after such a big relocation project? Thinking of the 3 snakes and the big bird's mocking expressions, Debao felt that his life as a mouse suddenly became bleak. Lu Ping didn't know what method he used to trick the peach tree demon into settling down in the 1,000-bell millet, but this kind of relocation clearly hurt the peach tree demon's vitality. Lu Ping took out 81 middle-grade spirit stones and set up a spirit-gathering formation at the root of the peach tree. Then, he crushed a 3-transformation spirit pill and melted it into a crystal bowl. Then, he used the art of traveling clouds and summoning rain. The water in the crystal bowl drizzled on the peach tree demon's head, and the wilted peach tree demon looked a lot more spirited. At this time, Lu Ping didn't care about the 3-transformation spirit pill. In his eyes, the peach tree demon was only left with the earth-grade spirit tree demon's psychic wood, as well as the whole peach tree's 1,000-year mutated peach branch and the 18 bright red peaches. Chapter 235. At this time, Lu Ping finally had the time to turn around and carefully identify the spirit grasses among the flowers and trees. However, there were quite a lot of spirit grasses. Lu Ping basically ignored the 100-year-old spirit grasses and only focused on the 500-year-old spirit grasses. In a short while, Lu Ping found more than 20 spirit grasses, and even found a 1,000-year-old spirit grass. Just as Lu Ping carefully collected this 1,000-year-old spirit grass and placed it in a jade box, the small black cloud above the bluestone jar inside the 1,000-bell millet finally turned into nearly 100 drops of black water beads, which fell into the bluestone jar. The golden myriad poison liquid was dyed with a layer of faint black, and the entire myriad poison liquid turned dark gold. After the 100 Flowers miasma turned into myriad poison liquid, the colorless liquid floating above the bluestone jar seemed to lose interest in the 100 Flowers miasma outside, and plunged into the myriad poison liquid. At this time, Lu Ping discovered that within a radius of more than 1,000 feet around him, the originally thick pink mist had disappeared. In the entire misty sea of flowers, a huge, clear circle had suddenly appeared. Then, the surrounding mist descended like a curtain of heavenly river from the sky, and fiercely rushed towards Lu Ping, once again submerging Lu Ping in the mist. However, Lu Ping could clearly feel that the mist of the entire sea of flowers had thinned a lot. The original bright red scene formed by the gathering of the pink mist could no longer be seen. It could be said that most of the 100 Flowers spirit essence in the thick mist of this sea of flowers had been collected by Lu Ping in a jade bottle when he extracted the 100 Flowers miasma with the help of the nameless spirit water. Lu Ping shook the jade bottle in his hand. There were about 300 drops of 100 Flowers spirit essence condensed by the 100 Flowers spirit essence. Although it had condensed into a liquid form, it was still a strange object of the wood attribute, so Lu Ping could only put it away. Just as Lu Ping was about to continue looking for more spirit grasses in the sea of flowers, a thought suddenly flashed in his mind, and Lu Ping's eyebrows gradually wrinkled. No, the peach blossom demon is not the king of flowers in the sea of flowers. The place where the 100-flower fiendish aura gathered was definitely a sea of flowers, and in this sea of flowers, a 100-flower king would often be born. This king of flowers was nurtured by the spiritual essence of the entire sea of flowers. It was the highest quality spirit herb or spirit material in the sea of flowers. It was also the plant that had the highest chance of cultivating into a demon. After Lu Ping learned the true location of the land of 100 Flowers from the leading cultivator, other than the 100 Flower Fiend, he also came for the Flower King in the land of 100 Flowers. Therefore, even though Lu Ping accidentally bumped into Wang Yishan and the others and heard that the core forging enlightened masters might arrive soon, he still rushed into the Sea of Flowers without hesitation. When Lu Ping saw the Peach Tree Demon, Lu Ping naturally thought that the Peach Tree Demon was the Flower King of the entire Sea of Flowers. This was because the Peach Tree Demon not only had the psychic wood and the mutated 1,000-year peach tree branch, but most importantly, it had awakened its spirit light and cultivated into a demon. However, Lu Ping forgot the most important thing, the Bell Spirit Qi. The Flower King had to gather the power of the entire Sea of Flowers and add its essence to its body. The essence of the flowers was called the Bell Spirit Qi, but the Peach Tree Demon did not have this. The Peach Tree Demon was only able to become a demon because it happened to have a piece of spiritual wood in its body. However, the entire Sea of Flowers did not help it at all. In other words, the Peach Tree Demon was not loved by the Sea of Flowers. Lu Ping's eyes lit up and he finally understood. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. A piercingly cold killing intent rushed towards Lu Ping's back. Lu Ping's expression stiffened, but he couldn't dodge in time. He had no choice but to shield himself with his Yin Tian protective aura and take the blow head-on. Pooh! A heavy blow came from behind Lu Ping. Lu Ping felt a tightness in his chest. He had no choice but to stagger forward a few steps to free himself from that irritating feeling. The fog formed by the 100 Flowers Fiend weakened a cultivator's divine sense. Just now, Lu Ping was so focused on the Flower King that he forgot to be vigilant of his surroundings. He didn't expect to be ambushed by someone else. At this moment, the ambushers couldn't be anyone else. Lu Ping turned around and saw Wang Yishan's group of 5 standing in the distance. The weapon that attacked Lu Ping was a top-grade mystic instrument. It was a full-powered strike from a peak blood condensation realm cultivator. Even if Lu Ping cast the Yin Sky in time, he wouldn't be able to unleash its full power. Lu Ping had been using Qianzhong Millet, a huge spatial magic artifact. Just now, he had used up a lot of his arcane energy to move the 1,000-year tree demon and the soil under its feet into the Qianzhong Millet. Lu Ping looked at them and coughed. His abdomen was shaking violently. Although it didn't cause any serious internal injuries, it made it hard for Lu Ping to control his arcane energy. Wang Yishan, who attacked Lu Ping, was even more shocked. He didn't think that a blood condensation cultivator would be able to stand in front of him unscathed after taking a full blow from him. He was so frightened that he didn't dare to continue attacking. It was Senior Brother Qi from the Crystal Palace who noticed that Lu Ping was trying to stall for time. He quickly said, "He's injured. He's trying to stall for time. Everyone, attack together. Don't give him time to recover." Everyone snapped out of their daze and took out their magic artifacts. A total of 5 top-grade magic artifacts flew towards Lu Ping. Careless. Lu Ping should have known that he was in danger and prepared a way out for himself. However, he forgot to conserve his arcane energy because of the 100 Flower Fiend and the Peach Tree Demon's harvest. Lu Ping was indeed trying to stall for time, but he wasn't injured. Seeing that the 5 of them were attacking together, Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. He had no choice but to dodge. All 5 of them were at the peak of the blood condensation realm, especially the 3 disciples from the Crystal Palace in silver robes. None of them were weaker than the North Sea's 18 generals. This surprised Lu Ping. The 3 peak blood condensation cultivators were as strong as the most elite peak blood condensation cultivators of the North Sea's major sections. If he was at his peak, Lu Ping wouldn't be afraid of the 5 of them. But now, he couldn't. Not only was Lu Ping's arcane energy depleted, but if he was in a stalemate with the 5 of them, a core forging enlightened master could arrive at any time. At that time, only death would await Lu Ping. Lu Ping split his sword into 5 sword rays and blocked all the incoming magic artifacts. In a flash, he retreated into the thick fog behind him. He's running away. Quick, chase him. Be careful, we're in the depths of the 100 Flowers Fiend. The 100 Flowers Fiend's miasma has already corroded our protective arcane energy. This person is not weak. Don't split up. Lu Ping's divine sense was stronger than the 5 of them, and there were many obstacles in the sea of flowers. Therefore, Lu Ping easily shook off the 5 of them. Lu Ping stood far away from them. He was the only one who could observe them, but they couldn't detect Lu Ping's presence. Senior Marshal Brother Qi said, "We just need to guard this place and wait for enlightened Master Wang Hua to arrive. I'm sure he won't be able to break through our defenses. While he's gone, I can condense the 100 Flower Fiendish energy. Although the 100 Flower Fiendish energy here isn't strong, it should be enough to condense my astral energy." Lu Ping saw that Senior Brother Qi began to slowly absorb the 100 Flowers Fiend that had been plundered by Lu Ping. He smiled coldly and thought for a while. Then, he turned around and walked toward the unexplored area in the Sea of Flowers. After a few steps, Lu Ping patted his head and released Debeo from the spirit beast bag again. At this time, Debeo had eaten the recovery elixir, and his arcane energy had recovered a lot. Naturally, he knew why Lu Ping released him. He walked around Lu Ping and sniffed in all directions. Then, he went toward the direction where Debeo could feel the strongest spiritual power fluctuation. After a while, Lu Ping was speechless and picked up a 1,000-year-old spirit herb on the ground. Debeo immediately came forward to show his achievement. Lu Ping pulled his beard and scolded, "You fool, I told you to find the King of Flowers, but you found a 1,000-year-old spirit herb." Lu Ping also knew that he couldn't blame Debeo. Debeo was a spirit-seeking mouse. He could only respond to the closest and strongest spiritual power fluctuation. The King of Flowers might have a strong spiritual power fluctuation, but it was obviously not close. Lu Ping had no choice but to throw a newly refined gourmet pill into Debeo's mouth. Debeo was a glutton and always remembered to ask for rewards. Since he couldn't eat too many pills, Lu Ping found a pill recipe and refined some gourmet pills to satisfy his cravings. Under Debeo's lead, Lu Ping collected 8 spirit herbs in a row. All of them were at least 1,000 years old. 2 of them were used as the main ingredients. It seemed that after Debeo advanced to the mid-stage blood condensation realm, his spirit-seeking ability had greatly improved. At this moment, Debeo suddenly called out to Lu Ping and ran in a certain direction. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly followed. However, after walking for about 100 feet, a strong spiritual power fluctuation was detected even by Lu Ping's divine sense. Lu Ping quickened his pace, and the scene before him suddenly opened up. This was a place that was not covered by the 100 Flowers fog. The pink 100 Flowers fog formed a vertical fog wall that surrounded this place. It seemed to be protecting something in the middle. Lu Ping looked up. In the middle of the clearing, there was a sparkling white lotus blooming brilliantly on a small pool of water. It was as if it was the center of all the flowers in the surroundings. It was the undisputed king of this sea of flowers. A 9th grade white lotus. Lu Ping used his divine sense to scan it. It was actually a 9th grade white lotus. This was the true king of flowers in the land of 100 flowers. Lotus was a special existence among spiritual materials. Other than being categorized according to the grade of the spiritual material, they were also categorized into 9 grades. Generally speaking, the lotus was categorized into 3 grades and 9 grades. The first grade was limited to 30 years, from a first grade white lotus in 30 years to a third grade white lotus in 90 years. The second grade was limited to 300 years, all the way to a 6th grade white lotus in 900 years. Similarly, the third grade was limited to 3,000 years, and the highest 9th grade white lotus required 9,000 years. How could this be possible? Once a lotus reached the second grade, it was already considered a high-grade spiritual material. Once it reached the third grade, its value would no longer be lower than any third-grade spiritual material, let alone a ninth-grade white lotus. The value of this lotus was no less than the Na Chuan cauldron. Lu Ping tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart. Chapter 236. Beside the lotus was a lotus head. This was the lotus head of a ninth-grade lotus. The lotus seeds inside could probably be used to refine pills for the Dharma manifestation stage. Lu Ping's face was full of greed. This was definitely a big harvest. The small pool where the ninth-grade white lotus grew was a pool of Kuei water essence, which was the real treasure of the land of 100 flowers. He did not expect that it would turn into the essence of Kuei water to nourish this white lotus. No wonder it could reach the ninth grade. As long as this white lotus went one step further and reached the age of 10,000 years, it might be able to awaken a spiritual object like the peach tree demon and become a monster. But now this white lotus obviously had no chance. Lu Ping thought for a while and let Debao dive into the ground again. With a loud bang, this pool of Kuei water essence and the ninth-grade white lotus were moved by Lu Ping into the 1,000-bell millet. However, Lu Ping soon discovered that after leaving the land of 100 flowers, although there was still a small pool of Kuei water essence, the white lotus still looked dazzling, but the vitality of its whole body was greatly reduced. It seemed that this king of flowers could only grow in the land of 100 flowers. There might be some secret connection, but it was not something that Lu Ping could understand. At this moment, Lu Ping did not hesitate and directly picked up this ninth-grade white jade lotus. After rummaging through the storage ring for a long time, he finally found a box made of chalcedony. This was also the harvest Lu Ping had on Fei Ling Island. At the same time, there were 3 lotus leaves and 9 lotus seeds in the lotus head. In addition, there was a snow-white lotus root. Looking at this pool of Kuei water essence, it was obviously a waste to leave it here. Even if he used it to condense his second layer of Gang Qi, it was obviously not enough. Lu Ping thought for a while and threw the 3 lotus seeds into the pool. This might be another move that would make even Fa Xiang Laozu crazy. Lu Ping smiled and put the remaining 6 white jade lotus seeds into a jade quintessence bottle, and put them together with the white jade lotus inside the jade quintessence box. This white jade lotus root was also not an ordinary item. Listening to Ji Zixuan's introduction, lotus roots that had entered the second stage were usually superior spiritual materials used to create puppets, and according to legend, lotus roots of the third stage could even be used to create avatars. This was an even more extraordinary existence. Lu Ping had once asked Ji Zixuan if he could create an avatar, but Ji Zixuan looked at Lu Ping with disdain. Even his teacher, Taoist Master Xuanhuai, was unable to do so. Lu Ping had already decided to eat this lotus root. Indeed, he would eat it. Even if Ji Zixuan knew about this, he would definitely scold Lu Ping for being a wastrel. In addition to the above effects, the white jade lotus had another effect, which was to strengthen a cultivator's physical body. This was only the third stage, which was to say, a lotus root of the 7th stage and above would have this effect, and the effect of this 9th stage lotus root was even more unquestionable. Taoist Master Lu Xianling had once hinted to him the benefits of a cultivator's physical body, and he had also seen with his own eyes that his teacher even used his 12 golden nuts to extort his sex Laozu. Lu Ping vaguely knew that the strengthening of the physical body was definitely a vital advantage for a cultivator. In the past 2 to 3 years, Lu Ping had already refined all the golden nuts he obtained from the 7-star sky into golden resilience pills for consumption. The golden nut tree in the 1,000-bell millet now only had a dozen unripe golden nuts left. With his current physical body, even without the protection of spiritual power, even a top-grade magic weapon might not be able to damage him. If he consumed this lotus root, Lu Ping was confident that his physical strength would be able to withstand the attack of a low-grade magic weapon without the protection of spiritual power. There was actually a miniature spirit vein under the pond. After Lu Ping moved the white jade lotus pond into the 1,000-bell millet, the spiritual energy below dissipated. Lu Ping sensed it and actually had the strength of 3 or 4 miniature spirit veins. This was one of the conditions for the white jade lotus to reach the 9th stage. However, at this time, this spirit vein had already begun to dissipate. It seemed that the condensation of the spirit vein was more based on the natural instinct of the King of 100 Flowers. At this moment, there was clearly no time for Lu Ping to think about seizing this spirit vein. After Lu Ping took away the white jade lotus along with the lotus pond, Lu Ping vaguely sensed that something had happened in the land of 100 Flowers. The King of 100 Flowers was nurtured by the essence of the land of 100 Flowers. It was the core of the entire land of 100 Flowers. Now that the white jade lotus had been plucked by Lu Ping, the land of 100 Flowers had lost its king. The mist in the entire land of 100 Flowers immediately began to move in an orderly manner, as if it was gathering or choosing something. Lu Ping knew that the land of 100 Flowers was nurturing the King of 100 Flowers again. However, this was an extremely long process. It would probably take at least a few hundred years for the King of 100 Flowers to appear again. Moreover, the appearance of the King of 100 Flowers did not mean that it could reach the height of the white jade lotus. This process would probably take another few thousand years. At this moment, Senior Brother Qi's angry roar suddenly came from behind Lu Ping. What's going on? Why has the mist of the flowers become faint? The essence of the 100 Flowers' evil spirit has suddenly dispersed. What the hell is going on? Wang Yishan's voice rang out. Could this be the doing of the person in there? After a pause, Senior Brother Qi's voice rang out. Let's go in and get rid of that bastard first. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to condense the 100 Flowers gang qi to completion. Send a sound transmission sword to urge Shinran Wang Hua to come quickly. I don't think this land of 100 Flowers is simple. Who knows what other treasures there are inside. Senior Brother Qi's casual urging of his Shinran obviously made Wang Yishan a little unhappy, but Wang Yishan's voice still rang out. Okay. They couldn't stay here any longer. Lu Ping opened his mouth and let out a strange cry. More than 200 purple crystal bees in the land of 100 Flowers cheered and gathered toward the 1,000-bell millet. When Lu Ping saw that all the bees had returned, he looked happy. At this time, more than half of the more than 200 purple crystal bees had broken through to the first level of blood refining realm. This made Lu Ping feel a little incredulous. However, thinking that the land of 100 Flowers could actually breed a flower king like the 9th grade lotus flower, it was obvious that this place had not been discovered for at least thousands of years. The flowers inside were like brocade, and each flower had condensed the spiritual energy of dozens or even hundreds of years. When the purple crystal bees collected the nectar, they were also contaminated with the spiritual energy, so it was normal for them to have a breakthrough in their cultivation. Although the 100 Flowers mist had weakened, Lu Ping could still hide his tracks at a distance of several tens of feet. Lu Ping took a big detour, intending to get rid of the 5 people from the other side. However, he didn't expect that the 5 people would come directly from the front. Obviously, they had already predicted that he would go this way. This time, it was Lu Ping who made the first move. Before Wang Yishan, Senior Marshal Brother Qi, and the others could praise him for his godlike foresight, Lu Ping's Qinghan sword had already cast the first move of the 1,000 Snow Piles sword skill, toppling mountains and overturning seas. Hundreds of snow-white sword rays formed into a ferocious wave that rushed towards the 5 of them. Just when Wang Yishan and the others combined their strength to block Lu Ping's sword, secretly shocked that Lu Ping was actually so powerful, a loud roar directly penetrated the land of 100 Flowers, interrupting Lu Ping's continued attack. Jin Li, don't go too far. This is the territory of us human cultivators. The overwhelming spiritual pressure of the core forging realm indicated the identity of the person who came. Enlightened Master Wang Hua. Third uncle. Senior Brother Qi, Wang Yishan, and the others were elated. Enlightened Master Jin Li. Lu Ping's expression changed. Chapter 237. Over the past 2 years, Taoist Master Jin Li's life had been truly miserable. On that day, he had repeatedly tried to kill Lu Ping but failed. Instead, Lu Ping had escaped to the Eastern Sea through a transmission array. Taoist Master Jin Li was a dignified core forging expert, yet he couldn't deal with a blood condensation minor repairs cultivator. Naturally, he became the laughingstock of the demon cultivators hidden within the beast tide. Taoist Master Jin Li flew into a rage out of humiliation and activated the transmission array to pursue and kill Lu Ping. However, he didn't expect that Lu Ping's transmission array would be destroyed first. Taoist Master Jin Li, who was in the middle of the transmission array, suffered this misfortune. When he was squeezed out of the spatial rift, he was already gravely injured. With no other choice, he could only hide in a cave at the bottom of the sea and recuperate in seclusion. Some time ago, Taoist Master Jin Li had fully recovered from his injuries and emerged from the sea. Before he could figure out where he was robbed by a group of human blood condensation cultivators. Taoist Master Jin Li had been forced into this state by Lu Ping and had nowhere to vent his anger. This group of cultivators had run into the muzzle of a spear and were easily killed by Taoist Master Jin Li. However, he hadn't expected that he would end up poking a hornet's nest. This group of cultivators belonged to a clan that belonged to the Crystal Palace. One of them was even a direct descendant of the clan. After receiving the news that a descendant of the clan had been killed by a core forging enlightened master, the 2 core forging enlightened masters of the clan had joined forces to take revenge. The 3 of them engaged in a fierce battle. Taoist Master Jin Li's second-layer core forging cultivation naturally couldn't compare to the combined strength of the 2 core forging enlightened masters. However, Taoist Master Jin Li was worthy of being called a genius among demon cultivators. He managed to escape from the hands of 2 human cultivators whose cultivation far surpassed his own. However, his identity as a demon cultivator could no longer be concealed. This was going to be fun. Although the fallen mystic realm was jointly occupied by humans and demons, there was a clear distinction between the territories of humans and demons. Both sides had always minded their own business. Now, a demon cultivator had actually run into the territory of human cultivators and was even shouting about killing them. What face did the human cultivators have left? For a time, Immortal Master Jin Li became the target of scorn in the human race's sphere of influence in the fallen mystery realm. He was constantly being hunted down. Fortunately, Taoist Master Jin Li's strength wasn't weak, and his ability to escape was superb. In addition, the Taoist masters within each faction's sphere of influence didn't know of Taoist Master Jin Li's background, so they didn't want to provoke a dispute between the Eastern Sea's human and demon races. Most of them simply expelled him from their respective spheres of influence, and didn't have any intention of killing him. Thus, Taoist Master Jin Li was able to flee from the human race's sphere of influence in the perished mystic realm to this place. The 3 clans' alliance had naturally noticed this unfortunate Taoist Yao cultivator. However, the 3 core forging enlightened masters of the 3 clans' alliance had their own matters to attend to and were too busy to expel Taoist Jin Li. They could only seek help from the 3 clans' island. Coincidentally, Taoist Wang Hua had gone out to sea to search for Lu Ping, who had murdered his illegitimate son. Taoist Wang Hua had come to the perished mystic realm with an ulterior motive. Expelling the Taoist Yao cultivator was merely an excuse. In his opinion, the Taoist Master Jin Li was merely a second-layer core forging demonic cultivator. As long as he could expel the Taoist Master Jin Li and complete his clan's grand plan, he would be able to relax and break through to the middle core forging demonic cultivator. However, Taoist Wang Hua hadn't expected that this Taoist Yao cultivator would be far more difficult to deal with than the rumors. Taoist Wang Hua had confidently chased after Taoist Jin Li, but he had been utterly defeated by Taoist Jin Li, whose cultivation was 1 layer lower than his. Taoist Wang Hua had no choice but to turn tail and flee. Taoist Wang Hua suddenly came to a realization. The previous clans weren't afraid that killing Taoist Jin Li would cause a dispute between the human and demon clans. Rather, it was because they simply couldn't kill this demon and could only expel it. The so-called dispute between the two clans was merely an excuse. After Taoist Wang Hua escaped, he secretly cursed the other clans for their hypocrisy. At the same time, he had come to this small island to prepare for the rescue of his clan's juniors and a few cultivators from the Crystal Palace. He knew that one of them was a talented alchemist from the Crystal Palace. His clan had already decided to rely on the Crystal Palace. Furthermore, this alchemist's teacher was from Kunshan town, and his position in the Crystal Palace was quite prominent. Thus, his clan intended to establish a relationship with the great alchemist, Taoist Master Kunshan, through this cultivator. Otherwise, why would Taoist Wang Hua reveal the land of 100 flowers discovered by his illegitimate son to the cultivators of the Crystal Palace? Taoist Wang Hua also knew that this Taoist Master Kunshan had already arrived at the Fallen Mystery territory and was preparing to take charge of the joint plan between his clan and the Crystal Palace. If he could invite Taoist Master Kunshan to join forces with him, not to mention expelling this demon cultivator, even killing it would be a piece of cake. Taoist Wang Hua's wishful thinking didn't occur to him that he hadn't been able to shake off Taoist Jin Li's pursuit. After Taoist Jin Li came out of seclusion, he had been hunted down by core forging enlightened masters. Even now, he didn't know where he was. With great difficulty, he finally encountered a soft persimmon. Naturally, Taoist Jin Li wasn't willing to let him go. The ocean was his domain, so how could Taoist Wang Hua possibly shake off his pursuit? Otherwise, Taoist Jin Li wouldn't have been able to escape from the pursuit of so many enlightened masters. Taoist Jin Li's sudden appearance shocked and angered Taoist Wang Hua. Flustered and exasperated, he hastily shouted, "Jin Li, don't go too far. This is our human cultivator's territory." Taoist Wang Hua's intention was to remind Wang Yishan and the others to hide well and not be caught in the crossfire of the battle between the two enlightened masters. Wang Yishan and the Crystal Palace cultivators were obviously aware of this. However, at this moment, Lu Ping's heart was burning with anxiety. He didn't have the mood to hide. No matter which of the two enlightened masters won, he would still die. Only by taking advantage of the two enlightened masters' battle and not paying attention to anything else could he possibly escape. Outside the small island, the two core forging enlightened masters had already begun their battle. The deafening roar of spells caused everyone in the land of 100 flowers to turn deathly pale. They were deeply afraid that the battle between the two enlightened masters would affect them. Lu Ping's Qinghan sword struck out again and again, continuously attacking the 5 enlightened masters. When he used the stone-piercing sky sword technique, he wanted to press forward with an indomitable will and the intent of death. Lu Ping supported the cloudy sky above his protective aura and forcibly opened a path through the encirclement of the 5 enlightened masters. Wang Yishan and the others silently cursed Lu Ping for not wanting to live and rushing to his death. If they fought here and caused spiritual energy fluctuations, it would be difficult to attract the attention of the two enlightened masters fighting outside. When they saw Lu Ping's desperate stance, they all stepped aside, allowing Lu Ping to rush out. "If you want to die, don't bring us along." When Lu Ping saw that Wang Yishan and the others were no longer obstructing him, he immediately ran towards the cave entrance. He hoped that the spirit concealment technique and the mirage robe would be able to conceal his aura and not attract Master Jin Li's attention. Lu Ping turned around the narrow crack and exited the stone slope. The battle between the two enlightened masters had already reached its climax. The spiritual pressure of a core forging cultivator wreaked havoc in all directions, and the aftermath of their battle caused the forest on this nameless island to be broken, uprooted, torn, and incinerated in a variety of ways. Lu Ping turned around and forcibly lifted the 2 stone slabs at the mouth of the crack from the stone slope. After placing them into his storage ring, he turned and ran. Immediately, 2 strands of divine sense swiftly wrapped around Lu Ping. "Good, I've worn out iron shoes in fruitless search, but by chance I didn't even need to look for it. We really are enemies on a narrow road." A strand of divine sense whispered into Lu Ping's ear. It was Master Jin Li's voice. Lu Ping's heart turned cold, and he thought to himself, not good. A majestic sword qi suddenly separated itself from the vortex of the battle between the two enlightened masters and rushed towards Lu Ping. The dense sword qi contained a tyrannical aura that urgently needed to be vented. Chapter 238. By now, Lu Ping had no time to think about how Taoist Master Jinli had discovered his identity. A majestic sword light was already slashing towards Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping had no choice but to stop and focus his attention to defend himself. That damn divine sense lock. Lu Ping had nowhere to hide. You've gone too far. An angry roar came from Taoist Master Wang Hua. Evidently, Taoist Master Jinli had the time to deal with a blood condensation cultivator while fighting him. Taoist Master Wang Hua clearly felt that he was being looked down upon. In the chaotic skies above the island, yet another ring of fire appeared and wrapped itself around Taoist Master Jin Li's enormous sword qi. The sword qi was like prey that had been coiled around by a python. It suddenly broke apart and transformed into 1296 sword lights. Like a swarm of bees, they stabbed towards Lu Ping. Unexpectedly, Taoist Master Jin Li's swordsmanship had improved in the past 2 years. He had already reached the highest level of complex training of the sword. From that majestic sword light, it could be seen that Taoist Master Jin Li had even reached a higher level of unity of the sword. However, Taoist Master Wang Hua had used the ring of fire to shatter the sword light. Faced with the overwhelming sword light, Lu Ping raised the Qinghan sword in the air and used the raging waves beating the shore technique. The Qinghan sword was divided into 324 sword lights, with 81 sword lights taking the lead. With difficulty, they arranged themselves into the 9 palaces formation. A total of 9 sword formations surrounded Lu Ping. The 2 sword arts collided with a loud rumble, filling the sky with sword lights. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing was enough to make a cultivator's teeth ache and tongue swell. Lu Ping's 9 sword formations were instantly shattered. The Qinghan sword wailed and flew back into Lu Ping's hand. Although Lu Ping had neutralized more than 200 sword lights, Taoist Master Jin Li's sword arts did not slow down in the slightest. Lu Ping flew backward with all his might. Cloudy sky could no longer bear the heavy burden. The meteorite vital shield of myriad poisons was broken at the sound of it, and the torrent of sword techniques was finally reduced to half. It looked like it was about to hit Lu Ping. Right at this moment, a foot-long pestle suddenly flew out from Lu Ping's hand. It expanded into 100 feet long pestle in the sky and smashed towards the rest of the torrent of sword lights. This time, it was Venerable Wang Hua. Clearly, Lu Ping's ability to use treasures had surprised him. Once again, sword lights splashed everywhere. Only about 200 sword lights were left in the torrent of sword techniques. However, these 200 flying swords had become magic treasures. They were the psychic sword lights released by a core-forging Taoist master. At this time, Lu Ping had no time to use his magic treasure again. A stream of water rushed out of the crystal alms bowl, forming a whirlpool in front of Lu Ping. However, it only managed to dissolve 36 sword lights before it was crushed. Lu Ping calmly responded. With a wave of his hand, he tossed out a dozen or so low-grade magic treasures. Amidst a cacophony of clanking sounds, several dozen sword lights were smashed to pieces. However, these dozen or so magic treasures were riddled with scars and could no longer be used. The remaining 100 or so sword lights finally crushed Lu Ping into pieces. However, what splashed out wasn't blood, but water. Art of crossing the sea and heaven. Lu Ping used a water man to deceive several dozen sword lights, once again buying himself some time. The remaining sword lights were no longer a concern. He summoned the Qinghan sword with great difficulty, and his protective qi of vigor was once again propped up, even though its original golden color had somewhat dimmed. Lu Ping secretly placed the protective talisman treasure in his left hand, which still had 2 uses left, back into his storage ring. Then, he reached out to recall the Qing Han sword, turned around, and fled towards the outside of the nameless island. Taoist Master Jinli wanted to stop him again, but unexpectedly, Taoist Master Wang Hua had already anticipated this. He suddenly increased the intensity of his counterattack, causing Taoist Master Jinli to be flustered. Taoist Master Jinli had no choice but to let Lu Ping leave. Lu Ping didn't know why Taoist Master Wang Hua would help him resist Taoist Master Jinli. However, after thinking about it for a moment, he immediately understood. Taoist Master Wang Hua probably thought that he was a member of the Crystal Palace. In reality, this was indeed the case. In addition, Taoist Master Wang Hua was in the middle of a battle and didn't have time to think about it. He also didn't know any cultivators from the Crystal Palace. He only knew that his nephew and a cultivator from the Crystal Palace had already arrived on the island, so he could only hope for the best. If a cultivator from the Crystal Palace died here, it would be difficult for the Wang family to explain themselves. If that person happened to be a proud disciple of Great Master Kun Shan, then not only would the Wang family's plan to rely on the Crystal Palace fall through, they might even become enemies with the Crystal Palace. Taoist Master Wang Hua didn't dare to gamble. Especially after Lu Ping blocked Taoist Master Jin Li's sword, Taoist Master Wang Hua was even more certain that Lu Ping was a disciple of the Crystal Palace. This was because only a super sect like the Crystal Palace could cultivate a blood condensation cultivator who could survive an all-out attack from a core forging master. Thus, when Taoist Master Jin Li was about to attack again, Taoist Master Wang Hua used all his strength to counterattack and stall Taoist Master Jin Li. At this moment, Lu Ping was laughing inwardly, but he didn't slow down. He knew that he couldn't hide this matter for long. Thus, after escaping from the island, he dove into the sea. The seawater had a certain effect on divine sense. Lu Ping directed 3 streams of water to bind Samling's body. Then, he and Samling launched the water escape technique together. In an instant, the 3 snakes and 1 person disappeared without a trace. Under a coral reef a few miles away from the small island, Lu Ping quietly floated up from the seabed. He cast the Art of Deceiving the Heavens and Sea Traversing Art, modified by the Art of Deceiving the Heavens and Sea Traversing Art. Then, he watched from afar as the 2 core forging enlightened masters fought above the small island. With this kind of momentum, it wouldn't be long before the other enlightened masters were attracted to this place. It seemed that he shouldn't stay here for long. Just as Lu Ping was about to return to his own Soundwave Island, he saw a fiery streak of light suddenly fly over from the west of the island. The streak of light charged straight into the middle of the battle above the small path. Another enlightened master had arrived. Taoist Master Jin Li was doomed. Lu Ping naturally knew what it meant for a demon enlightened master to appear in an area controlled by human cultivators. Just as Lu Ping was about to turn around and ride his magic cloud to leave, he saw a palm leaf fan suddenly fly out from the chaotic battle above the island. It flipped twice, and the palm leaf fan expanded to the size of a screen. It fiercely fanned towards Taoist Master Jin Li's location. A bright yellow flame rushed over, followed by Taoist Master Jin Li's furious roar. This was a spiritual flame of heaven and earth. Lu Ping looked at the bright yellow flame on the horizon. Not daring to linger any longer, he quickly flew towards the outskirts of the secret realm. Lu Ping stealthily moved forward. Although he had slowed down his speed, he was still able to silently pass through the middle region of the secret realm, arriving at the boundary between the middle region and the outskirts. There was a small island here, Sunrise Island, one of the 27 islands under the control of the 3 family alliance. There were a dozen or so blood condensation cultivators gathered on this island, forming their own force. Their leader was only at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm, but he had 5 sworn brothers at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. With the 6 brothers working together, no other forces dared to rashly provoke them. Now that he was out of the range of the 3 family alliances' control, Lu Ping no longer had to worry about being discovered by the 3 family alliances' cultivators. Feeling relieved, Lu Ping landed on a coral reef and swallowed a spiritual recovery pill. Then, he held a spirit stone in his hand and began to restore his arcane energy. The spiritual qi in the fallen secret realm was actually much denser than in the outside world. Just as Lu Ping had recovered his arcane energy and was preparing to return to Soundwave Island, a dazzling blood-red light suddenly appeared in the sky behind him. Blood escape. Lu Ping immediately sensed that something was wrong. When he turned to look, the blood-red light was already falling in front of Lu Ping. The loud noise and strong wind pressure caused by the blood-red light only reached him after it hit the surface of the sea. Lu Ping cursed inwardly as he glared at the person in front of him who had stopped using the blood escape. Taoist Master Jin Li also looked at Lu Ping with a strange expression. At this moment, Taoist Master Jin Li was in a much more distressed state. His golden robes were in tatters and there were many scorch marks on them, some of which were still emitting white smoke. His face was also a frighteningly pale white. This was the result of losing a large amount of blood after activating the blood escape. Blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth. It was obvious that Taoist Master Jin Li had suffered some serious internal injuries. It seemed that Taoist Master Jin Li had suffered a great loss under the joint attack of two human race enlightened masters and had no choice but to activate the blood escape to escape. Little brat, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Taoist Master Jin Li's pale complexion looked terrifying. Ha, you're right. Lu Ping smiled bitterly. Tell me, how do you want to die? Taoist Master Jin Li glowered at the young cultivator in front of him. This was the main culprit behind everything that had happened to him from the North Sea to the East Sea. Even if he tore Lu Ping's body into 10,000 pieces, it would not be enough to dispel the hatred in his heart. Are you sure you have the ability to kill me right now? Or perhaps you can kill me before the other enlightened masters arrive? Lu Ping finally managed to calm himself down. He looked at Taoist Master Jin Li and calmly asked. Taoist Master Jin Li was taken aback. This human cultivator in front of him didn't display the panic he had imagined. Taoist Master Jin Li laughed maliciously and said, "What a joke. This enlightened master doesn't need to worry about killing a blood condensation minor repairs cultivator. Do you think that just because this enlightened master is heavily injured, you can take advantage of me?" Just as Taoist Master Jin Li finished speaking, Lu Ping had already burst into action. The azure sword transformed into countless sword lights, forming a strange flood dragon in the air. This flood dragon had a horn made from the azure sword sticking out of its head. It pounced towards Taoist Master Jin Li, fiercely shouting, "Then you can die." If they didn't strike first now, when would they? At this moment, the two of them were suppressing a nameless fire in their hearts. Taoist Master Jin Li didn't need to be mentioned, but Lu Ping was also enraged by the fact that his luck was so bad. Lu Ping knew that it was useless to say anything else. In a moment of life and death, he had no choice but to fight with his life on the line. Taoist Master Jin Li disdainfully looked at the incoming flood dragon and sneered, "Today, I will let you know the fundamental difference between a core forging cultivator and a blood condensation cultivator. An injured enlightened master is still an enlightened master. He will never be defeated by an ant like you." The flying sword in Taoist Master Jin Li's hand moved, and with a single strike, he beheaded Lu Ping's flood dragon. He said, "This enlightened master has been dormant in the Eastern Sea for 2 years, recuperating from my injuries and practicing the sword. Although my cultivation hasn't increased, my swordsmanship has reached the perfection stage of training the sword into complexity. I am only one step away from achieving true, training the sword as one. Today, I will show you what true swordsmanship is." Chapter 239. The aura of a core forging enlightened master soared to the sky, but Lu Ping's divine sense was keenly aware of Master Jin Li's weakness. It seemed that after battling with 2 core forging enlightened masters, Master Jin Li had indeed sustained serious injuries. Even his divine sense was unable to conceal his weakness. Over 1,000 golden sword lights flickered under the setting sun. This time, Master Jean Li did not forcibly condense the sword lights. Instead, he directed this torrent of sword lights to bombard Lu Ping. Lu Ping used the Qinghan sword to block with all his might. At the same time, he flashed the jade talisman in his palm. 3 halos suddenly wrapped around Lu Ping's body. The sword lights that had broken through the Qinghan sword's interception were immediately blocked by these 3 halos. However, Lu Ping was still forced back several dozen feet by this tremendous force, leaving a long white mark on the surface of the sea. Master Jean Li took a step forward and pointed at the flying sword in front of him. Immediately, the flying sword split into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, and in the blink of an eye, over 1,000 sword lights once again transformed into a giant golden carp in the air. It shook its head and wagged its tail, moving its mouth and cheeks. Its entire body sparkled with a golden light, exuding a spirit. Compared to the one Lu Ping had seen in the 7-star skies, it was many times more lifelike. The giant golden carp leapt into the sea and disappeared without a trace. Lu Ping's expression was solemn. The Qinghan sword once again transformed into a horned sword flood dragon. With a soundless cry, it also dove headfirst into the water. In an instant, the seawater between the two of them surged with monstrous waves. In the blink of an eye, the outcome of the battle was decided. The Qinghan sword emerged from the surface of the sea, losing much of its spiritual light. A koi riddled with scars jumped out of the sea and pounced towards Lu Ping. However, a large jade pestle suddenly appeared above its head. With a loud clanging sound, the koi seemed to have been knocked unconscious. It fell dizzily into the sea, unable to maintain its carp's body any longer and disintegrated. However, the carp's spine was controlled by the flying sword. The flying sword flew back into Master Jean Li's hand, and the pestle was knocked into the air by the carp. It didn't gain the slightest advantage. Taoist Master Jean Li snorted inwardly and said, "I'd like to see how much magic power you have left to use a transcendent artifact." Lu Ping was not to be outdone and retorted sarcastically, "How much true essence is left in your body?" Taoist Master Jean Li coldly said, "It's enough to kill you." Just as he finished speaking, dozens of flags flew out from Taoist Master Jean Li's hands, descending in all directions towards Taoist Master Jean Li and Lu Ping. Lu Ping's heart trembled. How could he dare to let these flags fall? Just as he raised his azure sword, Taoist Master Jean Li's flying sword came to entangle it. The azure sword wasn't a match, so it could only hide in all directions, not daring to block its edge. Just as the flag was about to fall, a crystal bowl suddenly appeared above Lu Ping's head. As the crystal bowl spun above Lu Ping's head, the surrounding seawater seemed to be affected. Suddenly, dozens of hands formed by seawater reached out from the surface of the sea and grabbed at the falling flag. Taoist Master Jean Li coldly snorted and sneered, "You dare to control water in front of this Taoist master? Today, I will let you know who is the true ancestor of water control in the ocean." Taoist Master Jean Li stamped his foot on the surface of the water, and the hand that was grabbing at the flag immediately dissolved back into seawater. Lu Ping's expression changed. The dozens of flags had already fallen onto the surface of the sea, and the entire world suddenly turned dark. A large amount of water mist gathered above the two from all directions, and a fierce wind surged up from the surface of the sea, causing the seawater to violently roil. In a short moment, lightning flashed, thunder rolled, and a violent storm raged. Lu Ping immediately discovered that he could no longer distinguish directions within this array. He had lost sight of Taoist Master Jean Li's figure, and his divine sense had also been greatly weakened. He could only barely see 30 to 50 zhang around himself. A faint whistling sound could be heard. Lu Ping's divine sense only had enough time to determine the general direction of the incoming danger, but he was unable to determine its specific location. Lu Ping could only use the cloudy sky to block behind him. A bright light suddenly appeared in the darkness. Even with the cloudy sky blocking it, under the attack of the flying sword, one of the talisman treasure halos around Lu Ping's body was shattered. The faint whistling sound could be heard once more. This time, Lu Ping was finally able to pinpoint the flying sword's exact location. The Qinghan sword sprayed out a wall of swords in front of him, but it was easily pierced through by the other flying sword. Ding! With the combined efforts of the Qinghan sword and the cloudy sky, the second halo around Lu Ping's body was finally able to block the flying sword's piercing attack. However, the halo that was originally flashing with spiritual light had now become dim and lightless. Your divine sense is actually able to determine the location of my flying sword? How is this possible? Lu Ping pointed in the direction of the sound. In the darkness, a black object suddenly grew larger and began to descend in the direction of the sound. There was a loud explosion, followed by a massive splash. Taoist Master Jin Li's mocking voice could be heard once more. It's useless. Within this great array, there is no way for you to determine my location. Humph, if it weren't for the fact that this Taoist master's vitality has been greatly damaged and several of my treasures have been destroyed in battle, I wouldn't even need this array. Just as Taoist Master Jin Li was feeling pleased with himself and having forced Lu Ping into a sorry state, 12 five-colored lights suddenly lit up in the darkness. The lights grew brighter and brighter, and gradually, the 12 lights resonated with each other, interweaving in the night sky to form a strange scene. What is this? Taoist Master Jin Li attacked with his flying sword, but the 12 inexplicably tyrannical forces interweaved together, causing his magic sword to deviate. See calming. In the darkness, Lu Ping's deep and low voice resounded, carrying with it a calm and composed aura. Taoist Master Jin Li immediately retracted his insolence. As soon as Lu Ping's voice fell, the 12 five-colored lights inexplicably paused, and the originally turbulent sea suddenly fell silent. Taoist Master Jin Li felt an unstoppable force suddenly invade the array he had laid down, causing the array to suddenly be unable to operate smoothly. Taoist Master Jin Li was startled, knowing that this was Lu Ping trying to break the array. He immediately increased the input of his true essence and divine sense into the array, doing his utmost to maintain its operation. However, this force was truly tyrannical, directly freezing the operation of the array. Immediately afterwards, there was the sound of tearing silk. Taoist Master Jin Li was alarmed. He knew that one of the array flags he had used to lay down the array had been torn apart by this tyrannical force. However, the tearing of this array flag was only the beginning. Following that, the sound of array flags shattering rang out in succession. The fierce winds had long since died down, and the thunder and lightning had also ceased. The dark clouds that covered the sky seemed to have been frightened, and suddenly disappeared without a trace. The evening scenery once again occupied this part of the world, with dozens of broken flags floating on the sea's surface, rippling along with the waves. At this time, Taoist Master Jin Li was surrounded by 12 massive glowing pearls. With a bewildered expression, he asked, "These are the 12 spirit pearls from the 7 Stars Hall. How did they end up in your hands? To think that this Taoist Master's Immortal's Cave was destroyed by your hands." Lu Ping stuffed a 3-transformation spirit pill into his mouth, his expression grave and stern. He pointed a finger at the 12 gentian pearls surrounding Taoist Master Jin Li, and shouted in a low voice, "Striking God." Chapter 240. Striking God. As soon as Lu Ping's voice fell, a gentian pearl emitting a 5-colored radiance rushed towards Taoist Jin Li armor transformation. With a stern shout, Taoist Master Jin Li's golden protective stellar energy suddenly withdrew and fused with a top-grade magic tool, transforming into a suit of crimson armor that Taoist Master Jin Li wore. A scarlet cloak fluttered behind Taoist Master Jin Li's back. When the gentian pearl struck the armor, Taoist Jin Li was forced to take a step back. Immediately afterwards, 2 more gentian pearls suddenly appeared by his side and shot towards his body. Taoist Jin Li remained fearless. He directed his flying sword to stab out 9 beams of sword chi from 9 different directions towards Lu Ping. The 9 beams of sword chi seemed to have calculated every possible way that Lu Ping could dodge them. Besides receiving them head-on, Lu Ping had no other options. Lu Ping's face sank. The azure sword once again transformed into a weary sword flood dragon as it charged towards the sword chi. The sound of metal colliding was like the azure sword's final roar. The two beams of sword chi were extinguished, and the azure sword let out a mournful wail as its blades suddenly shattered into hundreds of tiny fragments that fell towards the sea. The azure sword was the magic tool that Lu Ping used the most. Lu Ping stretched out his hand, and with a suction force, the shattered fragments of the azure sword once again shot towards another beam of sword chi. The third beam of sword chi was destroyed, and the fragments of the azure sword turned into iron powder. Lu Ping once again raised his medicinal pestle and smashed 4 beams of sword chi. The remaining 2 beams of sword chi were blocked by the cloudy sky and meteorite vital poison shield. The stellar energy protecting Lu Ping's body was once again broken, and the cloudy sky had already turned into a gloomy white cloud, as if it would evaporate under the scorching sun at any moment. The last halo on Lu Ping's body shattered. Lu Ping's face paled. Fortunately, he was wearing a red mask, so it wasn't too obvious. A crisp cracking sound rang out again, and the jade talisman in Lu Ping's hand turned into dust, leaking through the gaps between Lu Ping's fingers. The last 3 halos rose up from Lu Ping's hand, and wrapped around his body one by one. At this moment, Taoist Master Jin Li had just blocked the attack of the 3 gentian pearls. Cracks began to appear on his red armor. Taoist Master Jin Li's deathly pale face suddenly turned blood red, and he finally spat out a mouthful of blood. Old wounds had not yet healed, but new ones had appeared. The gentian pearls continued to fall one after the other. This time, the remaining 6 pearls all shot towards Taoist Master Jin Li. The ghostly spiritual pearls drew an unfathomable trajectory in the air, making it impossible for Taoist Master Jin Li to determine where the gentian pearls were headed. What kind of array is this? It's actually able to control 12 top-grade magic tools to form such a strange and unfathomable array. How much magic power would be required to operate this array? Even a cultivator who had just entered the core forging stage would not be able to control such a tyrannical magic tool for a long period of time. For the first time, Taoist Master Jin Li's confidence in his ability to kill this human minor repairs was shaken. How could this be? This was absolutely impossible. Taoist Master Jin Li's malevolent face revealed a trace of disbelief, as well as a trace of flustered and exasperated anger. A cracking sound came from Taoist Master Jin Li's palm. Wisps of gray chi floated up from his palm, forming the outline of an enormous crocodile in the sky. The primordial crocodile. This monstrous beast was so large that its mouth alone took up 1/3 of its body's length. It raised its head to the sky and let out a soundless roar. Its sharp teeth glinted with a cold light as it opened its mouth, and an imposing aura that disdained the world rushed towards Lu Ping. 6 gentian pearls flew towards Lu Ping, but the giant crocodile used an agility that was not commensurate with its enormous body to bite down on 2 of the pearls. Fragments of spiritual light shot out, and Lu Ping's heart suddenly felt a sharp pain. This pain was caused by the damage that the gentian pearls had received. 2 gentian pearls struck the giant crocodile's eyeballs, causing it to feel a wave of pain. It couldn't help but open its mouth, and 2 dimmed gentian pearls flew out. The other 10 gentian pearls shone with a dazzling 5-colored light, and the 2 damaged pearls slowly regained their dazzling luster. Another 2 pearls flew towards Lu Ping. The primordial giant crocodile swung its body to the side, and its massive tail whipped the 2 pearls away. Lu Ping couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Taoist Master Jin Li smiled sinisterly, and directed the giant crocodile to charge towards Lu Ping. Ever since Taoist Master Jin Li had advanced to the core forging realm, it had been many years since he had used a treasure talisman. This treasure talisman had originally been given to him by his adoptive father, the Golden Flood Dragon Island Master, when he was still a blood condensation cultivator. In the past several hundred years, Taoist Master Jin Li had only used it twice before he had advanced to the core forging realm, and both times were when his life was at stake. Taoist Master Jin Li had originally planned to keep this treasure talisman as a souvenir, but he hadn't expected that he would have no choice but to use it to defend against a blood condensation minor repairs cultivator's attack. How could this not cause Taoist Master Jin Li to feel ashamed and angry? The primordial giant crocodile bared its fangs and brandished its claws, charging towards Lu Ping in an insufferably arrogant manner. However, it saw Lu Ping toss out another pearl. Taoist Master Jin Li's expression turned cold. The pressure from the 12 gentian pearls was still vivid in his mind. However, this pearl was different from the 12 gentian pearls, which emitted a multicolored glow. This pearl was crimson in color, and as it flew above the primordial giant crocodile, it suddenly sprayed out red threads that filled the sky. The crimson pearl also rapidly followed the spray of red threads, transforming into a sparkling and translucent color. The gray giant crocodile was wrapped up by the red threads. Although the giant crocodile struggled with all its might, breaking off countless threads, these red threads still continued to wrap around the giant crocodile. Finally, the giant crocodile was successfully bound. A silver jade seal soared into the sky, transforming into the size of a house. It whistled towards the giant crocodile, shattering all of its sharp teeth with its first strike. Then, it rose and fell, breaking the giant crocodile's tail. The primordial giant crocodile struggled with all its might. However, the crimson cloud pearl slowly revolved above its head, and the red threads grew tighter and tighter, causing the giant crocodile's struggles to become more and more futile. The landslide fell for the third time, and the giant crocodile's spine was broken. It no longer had the strength to struggle. Taoist Master Jin Li's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. He roared, "You brat, how dare you do this to me? Today, I will kill you. Today, I will let you experience what a divine ability is." Taoist Master Jin Li shouted, "Rise." Taoist Master Jin Li's life treasure, the flying sword, rose up in response. It slashed through the sky, creating golden sword lights. These sword lights flourished, but they were not released. Every time Taoist Master Jin Li's sword flew out, more than 1,200 sword lights would converge together. The sword lights in the sky became denser and denser. Thousands of sword chis with spirit sword chi intertwined in the sky, but they seemed to be moving in an orderly manner. The dense sword lights were aimed straight at Lu Ping. Lu Ping's complexion finally changed. This is a divine ability, a true sword divine ability. He has broken through the realm of unity of sword and practice, and has comprehended his own divine ability. He has actually reached such a realm. Taoist Master Jin Li spat out a mouthful of blood, but he didn't seem to care. He laughed harshly, "This is my Khoi clan's inherited divine ability. Although this Taoist master has yet to fully comprehend it, I am still a beginner. It is enough for me to barely use it. You, a mere blood condensation cultivator, can force me into such a state. You should be proud of yourself if word of this gets out. However, you won't have another chance." Sword divine ability, Celestial Gate. Amidst the shrill cries of swords that filled the sky, 36 sword lights containing over 1,000 spiritual sword lights fused together to form an enormous sword array. An ancient and mysterious gate suddenly opened in the sky, and a white curtain of silver poured down, as if the Milky Way from the 9 heavens had fallen to the ground. This was a true sword array. Previously, when Lu Ping had used his few dozen spiritual sword lights to set up a formation, it could be considered a formation. But in front of this sword divine ability that seemed to have opened the gates of heaven, it was like trying to draw a tiger but failing to achieve anything. Silver waves poured down, as if carrying with them the power of heaven and earth, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Every drop of water was a spiritual sword light, and every spray was a spiritual sword formation. In the face of this might of heaven and earth, Lu Ping's only fate was to be annihilated. Taoist Master Jin Li opened his mouth and spat out another mouthful of blood. To Taoist Master Jin Li, using this kind of divine swordsmanship that he had yet to fully grasp was an unbearable burden. The heavenly gate, which was formed from 36 sword arrays, was already tottering and on the verge of collapse. However, he didn't seem to care. Taoist Master Jinli was a sword cultivator who had been obsessed with swords his entire life. At this moment, he was also obsessed with the sword divine ability that he was using. He had even forgotten that the original purpose of using this sword divine ability was to destroy the insignificant hemolytic minor repairs. 12 massive spirit pearls surrounded Lu Ping, like an isolated island in the middle of the overflowing Milky Way. However, Lu Ping was determined to use this isolated island to seal the open celestial gate. Calm the sea. The 12 gentian pearls slowly revolved around Lu Ping. With Lu Ping as the center, the Milky Way suddenly calmed down. Then, this calmness spread out in all directions. The sword pearls, sword waves, and sword formations contained within the turbulent waves suddenly became docile little sheep, obediently subdued by Lu Ping's natal array. Engulfing the world. Taoist Master Jinli roared. The enormous heavenly gate of the sword array trembled, and an even more turbulent wave of swords poured down in torrents. Taoist Master Jinli's voice carried a trace of panic. Maintaining this massive divine ability had finally exceeded his limits. The sword divine ability is truly boundless, but you've barely managed to use it. How much of its power can you display? Lu Ping finally realized something. The flood of sword lights that gushed out from the massive heavenly gate sword array was less than a fifth of the heavenly gate. Moreover, the edges of the heavenly gate were trembling. This was a sign that Taoist Master Jinli's true essence had been exhausted, and he was no longer able to maintain the heavenly gate sword array. Taoist Master Jinli absolutely could not imagine that the range of Lu Ping's divine sense was no less than his own. Although Lu Ping's divine sense could not accurately capture Taoist Master Jinli's state like divine sense, just this much was enough. At this time, Taoist Master Jinli couldn't even muster a single sarcastic retort. His deathly pale face suddenly turned blood red, and then turned purple gold. His eyes glared at Lu Ping, as if he wanted to skin him alive. Strike God! Lu Ping saw through Taoist Master Jinli's weakness, and finally decided to forcefully resist the heavenly gate sword array. Chapter 241. Heavenly River Reverse. Taoist Master Jinli's expression changed when he saw Lu Ping begin to attack the heavenly gate sword array. He immediately reversed the waterfall of sword lights and blocked the gentian pearls' counterattack. However, 6 of the 12 gentian pearls suddenly split off and occupied 6 different positions. They forcibly opened up a path in front of the waterfall of sword lights and blocked the sword waves from all directions. The remaining 6 primary chin beads flew through this passageway and collided with the heavenly gate's sword formation. The 6 sword formations collapsed, and the entire heavenly gates instantly lost its topmost pillar. The heavenly river that had surged up seemed to have lost the power to support it, and once again fell down from the sky. Taoist Master Jinli finally began to panic. He did his utmost to maintain the broken heavenly gate sword array in an attempt to completely suppress Lu Ping's gentian pearls. Lu Ping watched as the heavenly gate sword array suddenly split off into 12 sword waves that chased after the gentian pearls. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The 12 gentian pearls glowed with a 5-colored brilliance and formed a world of spiritual light in the sky. The 12 sword waves were suddenly pulled in by countless forces from all directions. They immediately collided and intertwined in the sky, creating a chaotic mess. Mountain suppression. Although Lu Ping had the support of 3 transformation spirit pills, activating the natal gentian sword array consumed far too much transcendence energy. Lu Ping had to end this battle as soon as possible. The origin time beads 5-colored light shone together, surrounding the heavenly gate's sword formation. The 5-colored light shone as though it was being suppressed by an absolute power. The sword formations started to disintegrate one after another, and the entire heavenly gates started to gradually disappear from the gate beam. Taoist Master Jinli could no longer maintain the operation of the heavenly gate sword array. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose, and he looked like a ferocious ghost. He roared, "Impossible! How could you break through my divine swordsmanship?" You can. Amidst a loud explosion, landslide fell from the sky. Taoist Master Jin Li howled madly, and a seven-colored mist of light soared into the sky, transforming into a rainbow bridge that firmly blocked landslide in midair. Taoist Master Jin Li leapt into the sea of sword light. When he emerged from the water, he was already a golden carp about 10 feet long. He swung his tail and swam swiftly towards the collapsing heavenly gate. Although Lu Ping didn't know what Taoist Master Jin Li wanted to do, he naturally wouldn't allow him to easily reach the heavenly gate sword array. Muttering an incantation, Lu Ping raised his medicine pestle for the second time and struck it towards Taoist Master Jin Li. The layer of golden scales on the surface of the golden carp instantly shattered, and 2 clouds of golden mist emerged from the carp's body, forming a golden ball of light in the air. The ball of light then transformed into a golden shield again, clashing with the oncoming jade pestle. The golden scales were the same as the red armor that Taoist Master Jin Li had previously been wearing, and the 2 clouds of golden mist were obviously Taoist Master Jin Li's fused protective aura. The medicine pestle once again returned without success, but the surface of the golden carp was now drenched in blood. Still, it didn't slow down and continued to swim towards the heavenly gate. Taoist Master Jin Li saw that the heavenly gate was right in front of him, and that his escape was in sight. He turned around and shouted, "Brat, the next time we meet, this Taoist will definitely kill you." Fish leaping through the heavenly gate, true spirit escape. A massive golden carp leapt out of the sea of sword light, its entire body covered in blood, and threw itself towards the heavenly gate. You won't have the chance. A golden ray of light suddenly shone on the giant carp's body. Taoist Master Jin Li, who had been leaping into the air, suddenly paused for a moment. At this moment, the 12 multicolored lights twinkling in the sky suddenly increased in intensity once more. The colorless lights seemed to have substance, weaving together to form a multicolored world in the sky. The heavenly gate sword formation that had been enveloped by the multicolored world finally couldn't hold on any longer, and the remaining 20 sword formations simultaneously collapsed. Without the support of the heavenly gate, the sea of sword light could no longer flow, and the only thing left in the sky was a golden flying sword that had been suppressed by the gentian pearl. This was Taoist Master Jin Li's life treasure. Taoist Master Jin Li saw that his life treasure had been suppressed, and that his true essence had been exhausted. With no hope of escape, he glared venomously at Lu Ping with his fish eyes, and suddenly charged towards him in a frenzy. A multicolored light flashed in the sky, and the giant fish suddenly felt its entire body being pulled in all directions by dozens of powerful forces. It immediately came to a standstill in the sea, and its venomous eyes were finally overwhelmed by endless fear. The giant fish's head burst open, and a pearl that didn't carry a single trace of blood and emitted a multicolored light suddenly emerged from the broken fish head. Lu Ping let out a long sigh of relief, and his taut divine sense finally relaxed. Endless exhaustion immediately overtook his body. He had actually killed a core forging enlightened master. Although Taoist Master Jin Li had been hunted down and was seriously injured, and many of his magic tools and treasures had been destroyed in the course of the battle, he was still a second-layer core forging enlightened master. Now wasn't the time to relax. The intensity of the battle had most likely attracted the attention of the nearby cultivators, and sooner or later, the core forging enlightened masters would come to investigate. The flying sword that had been suppressed by the 12 gentian pearls was still fiercely struggling, trying to break free of the gentian pearls' control and fly away. Lu Ping looked thoughtfully at Taoist Master Jin Li's true form. Lu Ping took out an interspatial pouch and was about to place the huge carp into it when its body suddenly exploded. A dazzling golden pellet flew out from its body, drawing the spiritual energy from the surroundings and flew away. At the same time, the suppressed golden flying sword became even more agitated. Lu Ping took out an interspatial pouch and was about to place the carp inside. Golden core. I knew you had this kind of trick up your sleeve. Lu Ping sneered, and the copper mirror in his hand shot out a golden light at the golden core. The golden core trembled violently, but it was unable to fly away. At some point, the gentian formation above Lu Ping's head exploded with multicolored light once again. The golden core was completely suppressed. Lu Ping's divine sense wildly surged into the golden core. The small ball of divine sense that had lost its physical body was finally annihilated by Lu Ping's enormous divine sense. The golden core no longer trembled, allowing Lu Ping to seal it with a jade essence bottle and place it inside Lu Ping's storage ring. What great luck! Lu Ping hadn't expected that he would actually obtain a core forging enlightened master's golden core. This was even more important than the flying sword that was being suppressed by the gentian formation. After losing the connection to Taoist Master Jin Li's divine sense, the golden flying sword finally stopped struggling. However, Lu Ping still didn't let down his guard. Magic treasures had spirits, and when their masters died, they would usually choose to escape on their own. Lu Ping directly entered the gentian formation and grabbed the flying sword in his hand. After using his own transcendence energy to suppress it, he placed it inside his storage ring. Now was not the time to refine it. Lu Ping casually glanced in a certain direction behind him. The magic cloud beneath his feet lifted him up, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the dark night sky. Chapter 242. The darkness of the night was like a ferocious beast that could devour everything. It lay there quietly, waiting for the arrival of its prey. The surface of the sea had already calmed down. The rippling seawater had already wiped away all traces of the battle. It was impossible to imagine that a blood condensation realm cultivator had once killed a core forging enlightened master. 6 beams of light suddenly lit up on the surface of the sea. In the moaning sound of the tide, they looked like 6 dancing fireflies. The 6 rays of light landed on the surface of the sea, revealing 6 late blood condensation cultivators. The leader was at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm, while the other 5 were at the 7th layer. Big brother, I can't imagine how a blood condensation cultivator could defeat a core forging enlightened master. That's right. I'm afraid that person was just hiding his cultivation. After all, a core forging enlightened master isn't something we can guess. There's no mistake. Cultivation can be hidden, but the aura of magic energy can't be hidden. That person didn't use quintessential essence, but magic energy. Moreover, he didn't even use his divine sense. The way I see it, the 12 5-colored lights are the most powerful. They are clearly just top-grade magic artifacts, but they are actually able to fight against magic treasures. The door that appeared in the sky in the end must be a legendary Dao technique, but it was actually destroyed by the 12 5-colored lights. That's right. Big brother, what do you think? The last cultivator finally asked the leader of the group. The leader of the group had been frowning all this time. He looked around in bewilderment, as if he didn't hear the question from the cultivators behind him. The cultivators behind him finally noticed that something was wrong with the leader. One of them asked cautiously, "Big brother, something's wrong." The leader of the group interrupted his brother in panic. He took out 2 water splitters and shouted, "Run!" When the 5 cultivators behind him heard this, they all became alert. Each of them wielded their magic tools in the air. Suddenly, 12 5-colored lights lit up around them, and a faint voice came from above them, "At least you have some vigilance, but it's too late." A moment later, the 12 lights flashed, and only the 6 cultivators were left on the surface of the sea. One of them asked the leader of the group, "Big brother, then we," the leading cultivator's expression was calm. He turned around and flew away, leaving behind only 2 words, "Return to the island." After the time it took to finish a cup of tea, 2 streaks of light suddenly flashed on the surface of the sea, revealing a black-robed cultivator in his 30s and an old man in a silver robe. If Lu Ping were here, he would definitely recognize that the cultivator in black was immortal Wang Hua, who had mistaken him for a cultivator of the Crystal Palace, and the old man must be immortal Kunshan, the alchemy master of the Crystal Palace. At this moment, Kun Shanjinren's face was very ugly. When he came to the fallen mystery land, he saw the message left by his disciple about the discovery of the land of 100 flowers. The people of Kun Shan town naturally knew what the land of 100 flowers meant, so they immediately rushed to the nameless island without stopping. However, they were still one step too late. After joining hands with immortal Wang Hua to injure and expel immortal Jin Li, the two of them discovered Wang Yishan and the others in the land of 100 flowers. When the people of Kun Shan town saw the two huge pits in the land of 100 flowers, they immediately realized that the king of 100 flowers had been taken by someone else, so they fiercely scolded Senior Marshal Brother Qi. Senior Marshal Brother Qi felt wronged, and at the same time, he was extremely vexed. How could he have known that the land of 100 flowers had a king of 100 flowers? Of course, if the people of Kun Shan town knew that the king of 100 flowers that Lu Ping had obtained was a 9th grade white jade lotus and a peach tree demon that had condensed psychic wood, they probably wouldn't just be remorseful. In any case, the land of 100 flowers was still a treasure trove. The 100 flowers fiendish had survived 2 large-scale raids by Lu Ping and Senior Marshal Brother Qi. However, natural oddities were rare. Even though the 100 flowers fiendish had become extremely sparse, there were still many cultivators who were willing to use it to condense and strengthen their protective stellar energy. The cultivators of the two sects naturally sealed this treasure trove for future use. It seems like we're a step too late. Jin Li has already escaped. However, the aura here is really strange. It seems like Jin Li fought a blood condensation realm cultivator, Immortal Wang Hua said uncertainly. That's right. It's indeed strange. With Jin Li's abilities, even after using the blood escape technique, he shouldn't have been able to fight with a blood condensation realm cultivator for so long. Moreover, from the aura left behind in this place, it seems like Jin Li used his full strength. The silver-robed old man from the Crystal Palace, Immortal Kun Shan's divine sense was clearly above Immortal Wang Hua's. He could sense more things. In any case, this person shouldn't appear in the territory of our 3-sex alliance. What's more important now is to hide our plan from the Zhang and Li families, especially the Northern Cultivator Alliance behind the Zhang family. This time, Jin Li almost discovered the teleportation array. Fortunately, the old man arrived in time. We must also seal the news about the land of 100 flowers. Although the 100 flowers fiendish there is much sparse, it can still be used to reward ordinary disciples. It should be enough for 7 or 8 people to condense their stellar energy. My Crystal Palace will split the 100 flowers fiendish chi with your Wang family. Your Wang family will send 4 disciples here to condense their stellar energy. As he spoke, Immortal Kun Shan had already regarded the land of 100 flowers on the nameless island as the Crystal Palace's possession. This was a good place. As long as the flowers did not disappear, the stellar energy would remain forever. After accumulating for decades, it could be used by the disciples to condense their stellar energy. After a few hundred years, even the Flower King would be born. Moreover, there were many 500-year-old or even 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs in the land of 100 flowers. Immortal Wang Hua was startled when he heard this. When he saw that the people of Kun Shan town were looking at him with bright eyes, he said, "Okay." Lu Ping rushed back to Hearing Waves Island overnight. He summoned Hong Ying and gave him some instructions. Hong Ying's face was filled with shock and admiration. Then, he hurriedly summoned his 4 Vajra subordinates and ordered Wu Yan to guard the island. They left Hearing Waves Island overnight. Lu Ping sat cross-legged on top of the miniature spiritual vein in the middle of his immortal's cave. When he finally calmed his mind, his complexion suddenly changed and he spat out a mouthful of blood. This battle with immortal Jin Li could be said to have been a narrow escape from death. If not for the strength of Lu Ping's great Genshin formation, which was able to contend against immortal Jin Li's inherited magical ability, Lu Ping would have long since died under the Heavenly Gate sword formation. Of course, the main reason was that immortal Jin Li had been seriously injured and could not use 30 to 40% of his strength. Otherwise, even if Lu Ping had the Great Gentian formation, he would at most be able to escape from immortal Jinli. The next day, Hong Ying returned to Hearing Waves Island in high spirits and announced that Sunrise Island's Yi Buki and his brothers had submitted to Hearing Waves Island. Lu Ping's subordinates now controlled Hearing Waves Island, Crimson Shadow Island, and Sunrise Island. Among the 27 islands under the control of the Three Clans Alliance, Hong Ying was still the nominal leader of the three islands, while Sunrise Island's Yi Buki had become the second in command. What made Hong Ying even more excited was that Sunrise Island also had a miniature spiritual vein. This news was tightly concealed by Yi Buki and his brothers, and not even the slightest bit of information leaked out. With his injuries under control, Lu Ping quickly arranged a formation, drawing the spiritual vein to Hearing Waves Island. With 2 spiritual veins in his Immortal's Cave, the spiritual chi density in his Immortal's Cave greatly increased, and Lu Ping's injuries rapidly improved. A few days later, the 3 islands' caravans returned. Every once in a while, the forces in the fallen secret realm would have to transport their specialties out of the secret realm and exchange them for the items they needed from the various market squares outside the realm. Most of the items were medicinal pills, magic tools, and other such items. This time, the caravan followed Lu Ping's instructions and exchanged for a lot of 500-year-old spiritual herbs from the various market squares outside the fallen secret realm. Lu Ping personally refined a few furnaces of medicinal pills and gave them to Hong Ying to distribute to the blood condensation cultivators of the 3 islands. Only then did Hong Ying and Yi Buki realize that Lu Ping was actually an alchemist. Only then did they become even more respectful towards Lu Ping, not daring to have the slightest complaint. With the support of medicinal pills, the 30 or so blood condensation cultivators of the 3 islands immediately set off on a cultivation frenzy. These rogue cultivators lacked all kinds of cultivation resources, and their inheritances were also incomplete. Therefore, once they had an opportunity to increase their cultivation, their determination to cultivate was stronger than anyone else's. Lu Ping didn't care what his subordinates thought. In the battle with enlightened Master Jinli, Lu Ping could be said to have suffered heavy losses. Not to mention that Lu Ping had spent 3 months recuperating, the Qinghan sword that had accompanied him for the longest time was shattered, and the cloudy sky was also heavily damaged. It was obvious that it wouldn't be of much use anymore. A talisman treasure had been discarded just like that, and the meteorite vital poisons had been continuously shattered. It would take a long time for Lu Ping to recuperate with his arcane energy. Right now, the only top-grade magic tools that Lu Ping could use were the crystal glaze bowl and the golden copper mirror. As for the other top-grade magic tools, Lu Ping had 2 or 3, but they weren't compatible with Lu Ping's cultivation technique, so he couldn't bring out the true power of the magic tools. The Great Gentian Array obviously couldn't be used rashly. Using the Great Gentian Array consumed an enormous amount of arcane energy, so it couldn't be used unless it was absolutely necessary. Once it was used, it had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, Lu Ping would face the predicament of running out of arcane energy. During the battle with enlightened Master Jinli, if it weren't for the support of 3 transformation spirit pills, Lu Ping wouldn't have been able to last until the end. Even so, most of the internal injuries Lu Ping sustained were caused by forcefully using the Great Gentian Array. Fortunately, Lu Ping's harvest this time was similarly enormous. Now was the time to use these gains to strengthen his own foundation. Lu Ping once again drew out the water from the crystal glaze bowl. This was a habit that Lu Ping often used to practice his swordsmanship when he was in seclusion. At this time, there were already 324 water swords, under Lu Ping's command, revolving around Lu Ping's cave and playing around. The one in the lead was the Psychic Sword Light, which had already increased to 162. It was as if it was the leader of these 300 or so sword lights. At this moment, Lu Ping's hand seals changed. The 300 or so water swords trembled, and suddenly, each of them split into a small sword. These small swords reappeared from the crystal glaze bowl, immediately growing to the same size as the other water swords. Finally, a total of 648 sword lights, under the lead of the 162 psychic sword lights, slowly merged into a giant water sword in the sky. Under Lu Ping's control, this water sword only needed to use the stone-piercing sky sword art, once before it suddenly collapsed, turning into water droplets that filled the sky and scattered around the cave. Chapter 243. However, Lu Ping was pleasantly surprised to find that there were actually 5 high-grade spirit stones among Taoist Jin Li's remaining few 100,000 spirit stones. This more or less made up for Lu Ping's regret. Originally, the carp spirit had a body of bright red scales, but in the end, it was smashed to pieces by the pestle. Lu Ping extracted all the blood from its body in preparation for the Samling's advancement to the late blood condensation realm. Lu Ping stored the jade slip in his storage ring. He would definitely return to the Central Plains in the future. At that time, he would follow the directions of the map and explore the secret territory. Qianyuan Island was a good place to go. Naturally, there would be no shortage of top-grade magic tools there. However, there was still more than a year before the Northern Alliance's pill gathering. In any case, he planned to go and experience it, so there was no hurry. Lu Ping looked at the remaining 2 spirit peaches, then at the 15 on the tree. These were treasures that were no less valuable than 1,000-year-old spirit herbs. They could be used to refine core forging pills, but now, Lu Ping had casually eaten one of them. Lu Ping couldn't help but rub his stomach. Then, he solemnly placed the 2 remaining spirit peaches into a large jade box. Lu Ping picked and chose among the spirit peaches and managed to scrape together enough spirit herbs for a batch of heart-dissolving pills. The blue phoenix, Lu Qin, had already advanced to the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm for some time. Lu Ping was waiting for her to completely stabilize her cultivation and build a solid foundation before refining the heart-dissolving pills for her. There were more than a dozen jade boxes in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping opened them one by one. Inside were the 1,000-year-old spirit herbs that Taoist Jin Li had collected. In total, there were more than 100 of them. This clearly surprised Lu Ping. It seemed that this was the embodiment of a core forging cultivator's wealth. Samling was the spirit pet that Lu Ping could cultivate the most. They all walked the same path as Lu Ping, with a solid foundation and strong mana. Lu Ping tossed the carp demon's corpse to Samling, who was already drooling over it. A core forging realm beast cultivator's flesh and blood essence was so abundant that even without a golden core, Samling's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm. All he needed was a condensed blood pearl or a barrier-breaking pill to break through to the late blood condensation realm. This was a profound sword technique that could only be practiced after reaching the realm of unity of sword and practice. Right now, Lu Ping could barely use it to figure out and practice, but he was still far from being able to fully unleash the power of this sword technique. The psychic wood was indeed heaven-defying. Even with the nourishment of the Kuei water's essence, the 9th grade white jade lotus still hadn't awakened its divine light after 9,000 years. In the end, Lu Ping took advantage of it. The little peach tree demon only needed 1,000 years to cultivate into a spirit because of the psychic wood within its body. Lu Ping rubbed his chin. Right now, he should be able to try refining Taoist Jin Li's golden scale sword. 1/3 of his abilities lay in his sword techniques, but after the Qinghan sword was destroyed, he didn't even have a top-grade flying sword to use. However, he had to first form his golden core. After all, the golden core represented the highest level of human cultivators. There were even several powers like the number 1 superpower, the Crystal Palace, in the Central Plains. From this, one could see how deep the foundations of the Central Plains cultivators were. However, Lu Ping also knew that the Heavenly Gates sword array was Taoist Jin Li's own inherited divine ability, and unless the cultivator was willing, it could not be forcibly taken away. Taoist Jin Li's storage magic tool had almost no medicinal pills left, and he only had a few 100,000 spirit stones left. Presumably, he had used them all up during his 2 years of seclusion and escape. For a core forging enlightened master to only have this little bit of wealth left, it could be considered miserable. Unfortunately, there was no jade slip with the Heavenly Gates sword array. This was a true divine ability of the sword, a tyrannical battle technique that could only be fully grasped after breaking through to the realm of sword intent. One of the jade slips recorded a sword technique called the sword technique of unity of true essence. It was the same sword technique that Taoist Jin Li had used to mount a sneak attack on Lu Ping on that nameless island. According to Lu Ping's knowledge, Taoist Jin Li had only broken through to the core forging stage about 20 to 30 years ago. Moreover, he had spent most of his time in the North Sea. How could he have had the time to visit the Central Plains? Legend had it that the Central Plains was the world of human cultivators. Yao cultivators who had yet to take human form would definitely not dare to roam the Central Plains. There were also 2 purple jade slips in the storage magic tool. Fortunately, these 2 jade slips had not been sealed with divine sense, so Lu Ping could take a look at them. However, the golden scale sword was a magic tool after all. Activating it consumed a lot of his transcendence energy, and it could not be used in front of others, lest they covet it. Lu Ping was naturally unafraid of a blood condensation cultivator, but if he encountered a core forging enlightened master, Lu Ping could only flee. This carp spirit's golden core was naturally the most valuable item that Lu Ping had obtained. Not to mention, this carp spirit clearly had the bloodline of a flood dragon, and it was of the pure water attribute. The other jade slip was a map. Lu Ping carefully examined it for a long time before he understood that it was a map of a secret realm. Moreover, it had been personally drawn by Taoist Jin Li. However, the area marked on the map was the Central Plains, which surprised Lu Ping. Could it be that Taoist Jin Li had been to the Central Plains before? With a flip of his hand, 3 large spirit peaches appeared in Lu Ping's palm. These were the fruits that the little peach tree demon had given to Lu Ping in the land of 100 flowers. After Lu Ping tricked the little peach tree demon into joining the 1,000 bell millet, Lu Ping learned that the little peach tree demon was around 2,000 years old, and it had awakened its divine light only 300 to 500 years ago. The 18 spirit peaches on the tree were the fruits of the little peach tree demon's 300 years of cultivation. When Samling advanced from early blood condensation to mid-blood condensation, Lu Ping used the blood of a late blood condensation primordial giant crocodile to concoct a barrier-breaking pill. Now that he had advanced to late blood condensation, Lu Ping could use the blood of a core forging realm carp spirit to refine a barrier-breaking pill. Its effects were no less than the condensed blood bead refined from the flood dragon bloodline of a late blood condensation realm cultivator. Could it be that he had to find another top-grade flying sword? But before that, Lu Ping had to first dispose of Adept Jin Li's true body, that gigantic carp corpse. Lu Ping's body had a tremendous amount of transcendence energy, but a single spirit peach was able to restore a third of his transcendence energy. In addition, some of the transcendence energy had penetrated deep into Lu Ping's internal organs, nourishing his body and healing his wounds. This caused Lu Ping to feel even more astonished. The Yulon River, huh? I've heard that this is the second largest river in the Central Plains. It makes sense that there would be demonic beasts roaming the river. The process of refining the gold scale sword was definitely a long-term task. After all, this was Adept Jin Li's life-bound magic treasure. Adept Jin Li's divine sense imprint and true essence imprint were deeply ingrained in the sword. Lu Ping would need to spend a large amount of time to dispel these imprints. Lu Ping didn't hesitate to eat a spirit peach. As expected, it was delicious, juicy, and as soon as the fruit entered his stomach, it instantly transformed into an enormous amount of transcendence energy, rapidly replenishing Lu Ping's depleted transcendence energy from his battle with Adept Jin Li. Chapter 244. Lu Ping now turned his attention to the pool of Kuei water essence of Qian Zhong millet. This was a small pool of Kuei water essence condensed by the power of thousands of flowers in the land of hundreds of flowers. It was used to nourish the growth of the white jade lotus and even help it awaken its aura. Now this pool of Kuei water essence was in the hands of Lu Ping, and the white jade lotus had been picked by Lu Ping. The growth of the 3 white jade lotus seeds in the next 100 years obviously didn't need so much Kuei water essence, so Lu Ping naturally couldn't waste it here. After Lu Ping's nourishment for a few months, the myriad poison meteorite wind had been restored. The Kuei water essence was different from the myriad poison meteorite wind. After the myriad poison meteorite wind was condensed into the aura chi, it adopted a more corrosive method to weaken the external attack. For the North Sea Wave Listening Scripture, that Lu Ping cultivated the North Sea Wave Listening Scripture, the toughness of the Water Curtain Heaven Flower, protective aura chi itself would not increase too much. However, the Kuei water essence was the opposite. It was condensed from the essence of tens of thousands of water. It could be said that it was the first choice for all cultivators who practiced water attribute cultivation method. For the cultivator's aura chi, it had no other superfluous effect. The only effect was to make the aura chi as tough as possible, so that it could resist stronger attacks head-on. It took Lu Ping a full 3 months to completely condense the second layer of the Kuei water essence on his aura chi. Lu Ping's aura chi had a layer of blue halo on the golden surface from time to time. At this time, Lu Ping's aura chi could completely resist the attack of a cultivator of the same rank using a top-rank magic tool. Lu Ping looked at the center of Qianzhong Millet. The water level of the original small pool had been reduced by 2/3. However, if the white jade lotus seeds inside germinated and grew, Lu Ping didn't have to worry about the Kuei water essence decreasing in nearly 100 years. Under the golden nut tree not far away, a huge beehive had already been built. More than 200 amethyst wasps, each the size of a quail's egg, were moving in and out of the beehive. There were also quite a few amethyst wasps that flew out of the 1,000-bell millet to gather the honey of some spirit flowers and medicinal herbs. After the trip to the land of 100 flowers, many of these purple crystal bees broke through to the first layer of blood refining realm one after another. Lu Ping played with the small jade bottle in his hand. Inside the bottle was the purple crystal honey brewed by these purple crystal bees over the past few months. Moreover, most of it came from the experience of those few hours in the land of 100 flowers. The purple crystal wasps were extremely picky when it came to collecting honey. If it wasn't for the spiritual energy contained in the stamens, they generally wouldn't pay attention to it. Therefore, most of the honey they collected were flowering spirit herbs or flowers of quite old plants. The process of collecting honey was also the process of absorbing the spiritual energy from it to cultivate. Because of this, the purple crystal wasps generally went out alone to find flowers that contained spiritual energy to collect honey. There were very few places like the land of 100 flowers where spiritual energy had been accumulated for tens, hundreds, or even thousands of years. There were only about 200 purple crystal wasps that could all go out. Lu Ping looked at the swarm of wasps going in and out in front of him and thought to himself, I wonder when this swarm of purple crystal wasps will give birth to a queen bee. At that time, I can harvest the royal jelly. It is a treasure that can be used to increase the success rate of refining pills for the core forging realm. However, when Lu Ping looked at the little bit of purple crystal honey in his hand, he felt a headache. It took a few months to brew this little bit of honey. Even if a queen bee was born, that little bit of royal jelly might not be enough for the queen bee to enjoy. It seemed that finding a large-scale garden with spiritual energy was the fundamental solution. Lu Ping was also looking forward to using this swarm of purple crystal wasps to train his Dao soldier array. When it came to a garden suitable for the growth and cultivation of purple crystal wasps, the best place was naturally a spiritual herb garden. However, those who could manage a spiritual herb garden were mostly forces of one side. A spiritual herb garden like the one on Listening Waves Island was out of the question, if Listening Waves Island was also considered a force of one side. The so-called establishment of a force of one side required at least one core forging enlightened master to hold the fort. After several years of operation, they could erect a flag among the cultivators and establish their own sect. Although Lu Ping now had 3 islands in his hands and more than 30 blood condensation cultivators under him, under his guidance, the management of the 3 islands was on the right track. However, he still chose to live in seclusion behind the scenes. Nominally, he was under the protection of the 3-sex alliance and did not dare to erect his own flag. Otherwise, the first people to come to destroy him would be the core-forging enlightened master of the 3-sex alliance. Not to mention whether a force would open a spiritual herb garden to Lu Ping. Even if they agreed to open it, Lu Ping did not dare to casually let the purple crystal wasps appear in front of others. An purple crystal wasp danced in front of Lu Ping, as if it was reporting some information. Lu Ping smiled and walked out of Thousand Bell Millet. From the wooden table in the cultivation room, he picked up 4 bamboo cups made of black-spotted bamboo and placed a few spirit tea leaves in each cup. He then took out a small jade bottle filled with purple crystal honey and dripped 4 drops of purple crystal honey into each cup. Then, he poured a pot of spirit spring water into the black-spotted bamboo cups. A wave of steam rose, accompanied by the fragrance of tea. Just then, Hong Ying's loud voice came from outside the door. "Young master, Hong Ying, Yi Buki, and Wu Yan request an audience." After obtaining Lu Ping's permission, the 3 entered the room and were immediately attracted by the fragrance of tea and honey. Among the 3, Hong Ying was the oldest, had the highest cultivation, and was also the most knowledgeable. Looking at the steaming black-spotted bamboo cups on the table, he said with some nostalgia, "High-grade spirit tea. This is something only a core-forging stage Taoist master can enjoy, but this spiritual qi." Yi Buki looked at the spirit tea on the table and did not speak. Wu Yan, on the other hand, swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He had also drunk spirit tea, but it was of the lowest grade. Because of this, he had spent a lot of spirit stones to drink it. Lu Ping waved his hand, and 3 cups of spirit tea slowly flew towards the 3. Yi Buki reached out and drank it in one gulp. He immediately closed his eyes and began to silently refine the spiritual qi inside, causing Lu Ping to roll his eyes. This high-grade spirit tea was obtained by Lu Ping from Taoist Master Jin Li's belongings. There was only half of it left in an exquisite jade box, but it was enough for Lu Ping to drink for a while. Hong Ying accepted the bamboo cup, took a sip, and said, "High-grade spirit tea. This was 10 years ago, when I had just broken through to the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. I was overjoyed. I went to Qianyuan City's listening courtyard and spent 100 spirit stones to drink this cup. However, young master, this high-grade spirit tea is not only fragrant, but the spiritual qi is also a bit too dense. Could it be that old eagle is mistaken? Is this a top-grade spirit tea?" Wu Yan held the bamboo cup with both hands and sipped it slowly, like a person who didn't know how to drink and tasted good wine for the first time. However, when he heard Hong Ying's words, he choked and coughed. He was afraid that he would spit out the tea in his mouth, so he could only swallow it. For a moment, his face turned red, and he didn't look like a cultivator anymore. Lu Ping raised the bamboo cup and took a sip, feeling the rich spiritual qi in the tea. He smiled and said, "How could this be some top-grade spirit tea? Those things aren't easy to obtain. Even if there are, most of them have been plundered by late core forging or even transcendence Laozu. I did add some other good stuff into this tea. Spirit tea can help dissolve the impurities that accumulate in the body during the cultivation process, and my tea can also help purify the magic energy in the body." As soon as Lu Ping finished speaking, Yi Buki, who had already circulated his magic energy in his blood, opened his eyes and said, as expected. Lu Ping couldn't be bothered with this guy, so he directly said to Hong Ying, "Sit, what's the matter?" Hong Ying put down his teacup and put on a serious expression. He then reported the situation outside the fallen mystic realm to Lu Ping. Every once in a while, the 3 islands would head out to trade for cultivation resources, and Hong Ying was the one who was most familiar with the situation outside the realm. So, during this period of time, there have been cultivators heading towards Qianyuan City? Just for the Northern Alliance Elixir meeting? The Northern Alliance Elixir meeting is only one of the activities for the celebration of the establishment of the Northern Cultivator Alliance. In addition, there are 4 independent activities: the Equipment Refining Conference, the Talisman Conference, and the Formation Exchange Conference. There is also a 100 Arts Conference, which is mainly for some rare cultivation skills. There are very few cultivators who are proficient in these skills, and some cultivators have never even heard of them. So, they can't carry out large-scale independent activities. They can only gather together like a hodgepodge. Those who show extraordinary achievements at the conference will be rewarded by the Northern Alliance, and they will be favored by the Northern Alliance and various forces. Therefore, this is also a way for many talented cultivators to improve their cultivation path. Lu Ping remembered that he had promised the Li family of the 3 islands to participate in the elixir meeting. It was only because he came to the fallen secret land that he was delayed until now. At that time, he might have to go to Qianyuan City to see the splendor of the largest city in the northern East Sea. Yi Buqi was in charge of the defense of the 3 islands, the investigation of the other islands, and the summary of information, etc. Then, it seems that the internal affairs of the 3 alliances will not be peaceful. I'm afraid that the Wang family has already attracted other forces to drive the tiger to swallow the wolf. However, these foreign forces may also have their own plans. The Wang family may be inviting fire to burn and inviting the wolf into the house. Lu Ping thought of senior martial brother Qi from the Crystal Palace in the Land of 100 Flowers and sneered. The Wang family has already begun to secretly connect with the 27 islands and has repeatedly contacted other forces. It is estimated that they will soon test our intentions. How should we deal with them? Yi Buqi secretly admired Lu Ping for being able to analyze the results from such a small amount of clues. In the end, the competition between the 3 alliances will still be decided by the enlightened masters of the core forging realm and the forces behind the 3 alliances. At most, we are just supporting them. No matter who wins or loses, we only need to protect our own foundations. Wu Yan had also witnessed Lu Ping's prowess with his own eyes, so he was in awe of Lu Ping. Under Lu Ping's guidance, he was placed in charge of the development and utilization of all the cultivation resources on the 3 islands. Under his command, every early blood condensation realm cultivator would lead a team of blood refining realm cultivators to take care of a specific task. They would either be planting spirit grains, tending to the spirit herb garden, or mining spirit ores. Under Lu Ping's guidance, the early blood condensation realm cultivators completed their tasks in an orderly manner. Not bad. It seems that the current management of the 3 islands is reasonable. I believe that in the future, everyone's cultivation resources will be much more abundant, and you can exchange them for many cultivation resources. After listening to Wu Yan's introduction, Hong Ying and Yi Buqi revealed a trace of joy. The current situation of the 3 islands had far exceeded their previous situation, and this change was due to the young and mysterious cultivator in front of them. Chapter 245. Wu Yan, your cultivation has reached the peak of the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm, right? What is your foundation bloodline? Lu Ping asked casually. Ah. Wu Yan clearly didn't understand the meaning behind Lu Ping's words. She nodded and said, yes, your subordinate's foundation bloodline is the wind attribute cicada bloodline. Red Eagle, and Yi Buqi looked at Wu Yan enviously. What cultivation technique did you cultivate? What kind of bloodline did you replenish when you advanced to the mid-stage blood condensation realm? Wu Yan finally understood the meaning behind Lu Ping's question. Her face lit up with joy, but she suppressed the excitement in her heart and answered respectfully, your subordinate cultivated the wind and fire hybrid art that I obtained from a rogue cultivator by chance. However, this cultivation technique could only reach the 8th layer before it was discontinued. In order to cultivate both wind and fire, I merged with the fire attribute cicada bloodline when I advanced to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. After that, it took me 2 years to successfully advance to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. Wind and fire dual cultivation, huh? Lu Ping didn't agree with this method of mixing bloodlines. Normally, a cultivator would only choose one type of bloodline, so there was a reason to maintain the purity of the bloodline. However, most cultivators couldn't do this. When advancing to the blood condensation realm, it could be due to insufficient innate talent, poor cultivation foundation, impatience, or weak willpower. Some cultivators didn't even realize this and purposely weakened the purity of their foundation bloodline, allowing the attributes of other bloodlines to be mixed in. However, they were still complacent about it, and so on and so forth. As a result, their foundation bloodline couldn't be the dominant one in their bloodline. And this was only when a cultivator was in the blood condensation realm. After entering the blood condensation realm, a cultivator would have to fuse 6 different bloodlines into one's body, making up for their bloodline strength thrice. Every mistake would affect a cultivator's future achievements. Cultivation was a contradictory process of advancing bravely but also treading on thin ice. Of course, this was only Lu Ping's personal opinion. Some cultivators didn't cultivate like Lu Ping to maintain the purity of their bloodline. Even cultivators who cultivated pure elemental cultivation techniques couldn't do this because there were too many factors that could affect and restrict their cultivation method. On the other hand, cultivators who cultivated dual or even tri-elemental cultivation techniques could achieve great results in the end, even faster than cultivators who cultivated pure elemental cultivation techniques. Lu Ping explained the pros and cons of these cultivation methods to Wu Yan, but in fact, he was also explaining them to Hong Ying and Yi Buqi. This was the advantage of having a heritage. There were always dozens of generations of experience and research that the future cultivators could refer to and verify. Lu Ping had also collected some cultivation techniques over the years. Among them, there were a few that were related to the dual cultivation of wind and fire. However, these cultivation techniques were not much better than Wu Yan's hybrid wind and fire technique. The inheritance could only be perfected to the peak of the blood condensation realm at most. It wasn't worth it for Wu Yan to focus on other cultivation techniques and convert the primordial energy in her body into other types of energy. It would be great if Lu Ping's cultivation reached the golden core realm. At that time, Lu Ping would have the right to look up the cultivation technique Jade Slips of the Heavens Spirit Hall. At that time, he would be able to find a few relatively complete inheritance techniques for his subordinates. Of course, he didn't even need to think about the true inheritance techniques. Lu Ping pondered for a moment and took out 2 jade slips from his storage ring. He said, "During the Heaven Essence Pill gathering, Hong Ying will accompany me to Heaven Essence City. When the time comes, you should go with him. If you can obtain the dual elemental wind and fire cicada bloodline, you can use it to break through to the late blood condensation realm. As for your cultivation technique, I don't have any good inheritance in my hands right now." These 2 jade slips each contain a dual elemental wind and fire cultivation technique. Although they are only perfected to the late blood condensation realm, you can use them for reference. If you can perfect your cultivation technique to the peak of the blood condensation realm, that would naturally be the best. These were 2 inheritance jade slips. In the eyes of a wandering cultivator, they were incomparably precious. What was an inheritance jade slip? It wasn't a secret technique that was recorded in words and handed over to the cultivator for them to figure out and cultivate. An inheritance jade slip was a collection of cultivation techniques and cultivation techniques. It included everything related to these 2 techniques: cultivation experience, understanding, refining of magic treasures, the choice of natal magic treasures, suitable cultivation pills, and so on. Every inheritance jade slip could be said to be a small encyclopedia of the cultivation world. For example, the North Sea Wave listening technique that Lu Ping cultivated was a combination of the North Sea Wave listening technique and the Flying Spirit treading the sea art. In addition to the North Sea 12 techniques related to cultivation techniques, there were more than 10 choices for refining natal magic treasures. There were also 7 or 8 ways to improve natal magic treasures. There were even 3 suitable treasures that could be used to improve the quality of magic treasures, and so on. These things were in Jinling. Logically speaking, only cultivators who had reached the core forging realm or made great contributions to the sect would receive the complete inheritance. However, Lu Ping was a direct disciple, so he could also receive the complete inheritance. Moreover, only half of his cultivation technique was from Zhenling. The other half came from Fei Ling sect, which had been destroyed thousands of years ago. Wu Yan's hands trembled as she received the jade slips. Although Hong Ying and Yi Buqi tried their best to remain calm, their bright eyes were fixed on the jade slips in Wu Yan's hands. From time to time, their eyes flashed with envy. Lu Ping was born in a big sect. Relying on his own efforts, he was favored by Master Xian Ling naturally. He had seen many inheritances. In these years, he had traveled everywhere and the number of cultivators who had died in his hands was not small. Although there were few inheritance jade slips, he did not realize that this kind of thing was far more precious than he had imagined in the eyes of a rogue cultivator. The three of them left Lu Ping's cultivation room. Hong Ying and Yi Buqi were thinking about their own things, as if they wanted to say something but stopped. Wu Yan was still immersed in the joy of getting the 2 jade slips. From time to time, she would touch the storage bag on her waist for fear of losing the 2 jade slips. After the 3 of them walked far away, Hong Ying could not help but ask, "What kind of person do you think the young master is?" Yi Buqi looked at him expressionlessly. A trace of awe and gratitude flashed in Wu Yan's eyes from time to time. She lowered her eyelids and did not speak. It seemed that Hong Ying did not expect the 2 of them to answer. He continued, "I, Hong Ying, have been fighting in the secret land of Fallen Mountain for decades. I have experienced life and death several times. I believe that my subordinates are no weaker than those so-called elite disciples in the sect who only have cultivation and spiritual power but have not experienced many life and death battles. Even so, I and my 4 brothers could not last more than 3 rounds against the young master." Chapter 246. The Red Eagle paused. Yi Buqi's face was still as calm as water, but his eyes shone brightly from time to time, as if he was recalling something unimaginable. Wu Yan lowered her head and was at a loss. She didn't know whether she should leave or stay here. Hong Ying stared at Yi Buqi and suddenly asked in a low voice, "Yi Buqi, once the 6 directions battle formation in your 6 brothers' hands is combined, even Qi Lianying of Flying Rainbow Island couldn't do anything to you. It is said that Qi Lianying is an abandoned disciple of a big sect in the East Sea. She is said to be the strongest on the 27 islands. It is also said that she once escaped from a perfected master of the core forging realm." Yi Buqi stared at the Red Eagle without saying a word. The Red Eagle opened its mouth and said something that frightened Yi Buqi even more. "Is the young master a perfected master of the core forging realm?" Wu Yan, who had been thinking about something with her head lowered, suddenly raised her head, glanced at Red Eagle, and then turned to look at Yi Buqi. Her eyes, which had always been submissive, suddenly burst out with an inexplicable brilliance. Yi Buqi stared at Hong Ying blankly for a long time, as if he was recalling something. After a while, he reacted and said coldly, "The young master is not a perfected master of the core forging realm." Then he left. However, when he turned around, there was a trace of confusion in his eyes. It seemed that even he couldn't figure out who Lu Ping was. Wu Yan lowered her head again, and her eyes became gloomy again. It was obvious that she was a little disappointed. Hong Ying looked at Yi Buqi's back thoughtfully, then turned around and left without saying a word. Wu Yan looked at the 2 people who had left and suddenly didn't know what to do. After a long time, she suddenly patted her head, as if she had remembered that there was something that Lu Ping had asked her to do, so she hurriedly left. In the cultivation room, Lu Ping suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with a dark light, like a pool of unfathomable autumn water. He smiled and then closed his eyes again to cultivate. 2 days later, Lu Ping took out a piece of black wood from his interspatial ring. There was less than a year left until the North Alliance alchemy meet. Perhaps it was time for him to make some preparations. This piece of soul-nourishing wood had been in Lu Ping's hands for several years. After secretly exchanging the spirit-forging pill with Taoist master Jiang Xianlin for this profound-level middle-rank world spirit wood, Lu Ping had been secretly cultivating the splitting soul secret technique. For several years, he had been enduring the great pain caused by the tearing of his divine sense and had been practicing diligently. In order to maintain the advantage of having twice the strength of an ordinary person's divine sense, Lu Ping had practiced a total of 3 sets of secret techniques that could strengthen divine sense. The spirit-nourishing technique had increased the range of Lu Ping's divine sense by nearly 1/3. By chance, he had obtained the mysterious leaf grass and successfully refined 12 soul expansion pills, which had increased the range of Lu Ping's divine sense by another 30 meters. The last was the splitting soul technique, which used the soul-nourishing wood as a sustenance, which had increased the strength of Lu Ping's divine sense by nearly 90 meters. After the divine sense contained in the soul-nourishing wood had fused with Lu Ping's divine sense, Lu Ping had to reintegrate and familiarize himself with the newly increased divine sense, so that he could truly command it with ease. After Lu Ping finally completed the splitting soul technique, more than a month had passed. Lu Ping's divine sense could now cover a radius of more than 2 miles. The huge divine sense suddenly spread out, catching Lu Ping off guard. The cultivators on Tingtao Island all felt a huge aura suddenly surround them, and the chill made these cultivators tremble from head to toe. Fortunately, Lu Ping reacted in time. He quickly took full control of the divine sense and began to gather it towards Lu Ping's cave dwelling. However, Lu Ping was once again careless. With such a huge area of coverage, even a first-layer core forging enlightened master could only cover a radius of 1 to 2 miles at most. Although the divine sense was inferior to the divine sense, when a divine sense with such a huge area of coverage was gathered together, the quantitative change finally led to a qualitative change. Above Lu Ping's cave dwelling, a faint blue shadow swayed in all directions, changing into various shapes. A huge pressure suddenly came from above the cave dwelling, and the blood condensation cultivators on Tingtao Island felt as if a heavenly river was collapsing above their heads, and they were about to face a catastrophe. Many blood-refining cultivators who were tending to the spiritual fields or collecting spiritual herbs were directly shocked by the pressure, and they fainted on the ground. The pressure came and went so quickly that a few early blood condensation cultivators thought that there was something wrong with their cultivation. They quickly returned to their cave dwellings to meditate, afraid that they would suffer from qi deviation. Fortunately, all the mid-blood condensation cultivators on the island were working for Hong Ying and Yi Buki. Only Wu Yan was left on Tingtao Island. Wu Yan immediately jumped up when the aura descended on her. Lu Ping was the one who did all the work, so he was the one in charge. Wu Yan naturally knew what happened. He looked in the direction of Lu Ping's cave dwelling in awe. His heart was already in turmoil. This is the divine sense pressure of a core forging enlightened master. Could it be that young master is really a core forging enlightened master like Hong Ying guessed? But why is Yi Buki so certain that he is not? Wu Yan's eyes lit up. Could it be that young master had successfully advanced and just reached the gold core realm? But he immediately denied this thought. Advancing to the core forging realm would not only result in a huge whirlpool of spiritual energy, but there would also be astronomical phenomena. However, Tingtao Island was currently calm, so how could there be any astronomical phenomena? Just as Wu Yan was hesitating whether he should go to Lu Ping's cave dwelling to ask for instructions, a voice reached his ears. Wu Yan's expression stiffened. Then, as if he had understood some kind of mission, he bowed in the direction of Lu Ping's cave dwelling, turned around, and left in a hurry. His divine sense sensed that Wu Yan had followed his instructions. Lu Ping heaved a long sigh of relief. He was too careless. He didn't expect his divine sense to have the embryonic form of a core forging enlightened master's divine sense pressure. Fortunately, he was on Tingtao Island. If he was in a densely populated area, he might have caused a lot of trouble. Lu Ping remembered the female alchemist Chu Ting he met in the Li family of the Three Families Island. She had a secret technique that could transform her divine sense into divine sense before she advanced to the core forging realm. However, this kind of divine sense was too weak for a core forging enlightened master. However, this secret technique was extremely precious for a blood condensation realm alchemist. Divine sense was an important obstacle for alchemists to successfully refine half-step core forging realm pills, or even core forging realm pills. Chu Ting was able to successfully refine a 7-step marked pill because of the divine sense into thought secret technique. Lu Ping did not know the divine sense into thought secret technique. The reason why his divine sense could possess the power of divine sense was mainly because he had contracted his huge divine sense to the extreme, so it temporarily possessed the power of divine sense. Lu Ping's intuition told him that his alchemy technique was about to usher in another breakthrough. Could the temporarily possess the power of divine sense allow him to refine core forging realm pills? Just thinking about it made Lu Ping excited. However, now was clearly not the time to concoct a core forging realm medicinal pellet. Not to mention the large number of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs required to concoct a core forging realm medicinal pellet, Lu Ping only had 2 core forging realm medicinal pellet recipes. One was the golden marrow pellet recipe from his alchemist Xing Tao, and the other was obtained from Fei Ling Island. Lu Ping suddenly remembered that he still had a few purple jade slips sealed with divine sense. Now that his divine sense had been compressed to the extreme, it already possessed some of the characteristics of divine sense. He didn't know if he could unlock the seal, but the result was that Lu Ping was disappointed. Sealing a jade slip with divine sense was a complicated method of using one's divine sense. The current Lu Ping obviously did not have this ability. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A blue streak of light flew out of Soundwave Island. It streaked across the rippling surface of the sea, looking like an inconspicuous wave. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared above the sea. At this moment, the nameless island was no longer as desolate and uninhabited as before. On top of a large stone slope at the entrance to the Land of 100 Flowers, a group of Crystal Palace cultivators in silver robes were guarding the entrance. A streak of light streaked across the sky. The cultivators' expressions changed as they looked at the newcomer. The newcomer was a young cultivator in black robes at the 8th layer of blood condensation realm. When he saw the Crystal Palace cultivators guarding the entrance, a trace of anger flashed across his eyes. However, he still respectfully handed over a jade token and said, 3 family alliances Wang family's disciple, Wang Yimu, has come to the Land of 100 Flowers to condense the 100 Flowers baleful qi. Senior brothers from the Crystal Palace, please let us pass. Wang family. The leader of the Crystal Palace cultivators played with the jade token in his hand and said playfully, I really don't know what enlightened Kunshan is thinking. This Land of 100 Flowers was discovered by our Crystal Palace's senior brother Qi Shimin and junior brother Wang Yishan. It should belong to our Crystal Palace alone, but the people of Kunshan Town gave up 4 spots to the Wang family to condense baleful qi. What a waste. Wang Yimu retorted, Senior brother, you are wrong. This Land of 100 Flowers was first discovered by our Wang family. It was my cousin Wang Yishan and Wang Yiling who brought senior brother Qi and the other 2 here. Impudent. Is senior brother Qi someone you can call? Wang Yishan is just a disciple of our Crystal Palace. That's why we are brothers. Your Wang family is not a disciple of our Crystal Palace. You are just a small family under the protection of our Crystal Palace. A Crystal Palace cultivator looked down at Wang Yimu and said. Another escape light flashed in the sky. A Crystal Palace cultivator landed. Looking at Wang Yimu and the Crystal Palace cultivators who were in a stalemate at the entrance of the cave, he turned to the leader of the Crystal Palace cultivators and said, Senior brother Ma, I came here to condense Gang Qi for protection under the order of enlightened Kunshan. It turns out to be junior brother Lin. Junior brother Lin is young and promising. Enlightened Kunshan thinks highly of you. Hurry up and go to the southeast corner. The baleful qi is relatively stronger there. The leader of the Crystal Palace cultivators reminded junior brother Lin fervently. Wang Yimu, who had arrived earlier, had been ignored. Chapter 247. Junior brother Lin nodded and glanced at Wang Yimu behind him. Then he turned to senior brother Ma and said, "Senior brother Ma, you've worked hard. Kunshin Jinren will definitely reward you. Maybe the last place will be yours." Senior brother Ma was overjoyed and said, "Junior brother Lin, please put in a good word for me in front of Kunshin Jinren." Junior brother Lin nodded and entered the cave. "You guys are too much." Wang Yimu looked at the Crystal Palace cultivators standing in front of him and letting junior brother Lin go first. Finally, he said angrily, "I'm here under the order of Wang Hua Jinren. Why do you keep making things difficult for me?" Senior brother Ma and the others looked at Wang Yimu with a mocking expression and said, "Making things difficult for you? Did we say that you weren't allowed to enter the land of 100 flowers? So what if I make things difficult for you? Don't forget, this is the territory of my Water Crystal Palace. Your Wang family has been treated so well by my Water Crystal Palace. Not only are you not grateful, you even want a yard after being given an inch?" Wang Yimu knew that they were deliberately making things difficult for him. He took the jade token from senior brother Ma and walked into the cave without looking back. Senior brother Ma's sarcastic voice came from behind, "After you go in, go to the southwest corner. That's where the disciples of the Wang family condense their evil qi." Wang Yimu turned around angrily and said, "You're too much. My cousin Wang Yiheng condensed his evil qi in the southwest corner last time. The evil qi there must be thin. How can he condense it again?" Senior brother Ma replied with a sneer, "Go or not, I think there are still many cultivators in the Wang family who haven't condensed their evil qi yet, right? Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you go to the wrong place, you'll be driven out by the patrolling senior brother." Wang Yimu wanted to return to his encampment and explain the situation to perfected Wang Hua, but he suddenly remembered perfected Wang Hua's hint and the envious expressions of his brothers. He glared at senior brother Ma and turned to enter the cave abode. Senior brother Ma and the others exchanged glances and sneered. One of the cultivators behind Wang Yimu reminded him, "Kid, you only have 3 days. After 3 days, regardless of whether you have finished condensing your killing intent or not, you must leave the land of 100 flowers. If not, we will have no choice but to expel you." Wang Yimu's figure paused for a moment, then he continued to walk into the cave. However, no one realized that while everyone was entangled at the entrance of the cave, a blue figure had already hidden above the entrance of the cave. Then, the blue figure released a fat gray spirit beast from the spirit beast bag. After the blue figure rode on the spirit beast, the man and the spirit beast strangely sank down from the stone slope. The stone art was different from the earth art. Although the two were essentially the same, the stone art was much more difficult than the earth art. Hence, after Debao sent Lu Ping to the cave in the land of 100 flowers, he once again exhausted his spiritual energy and laid on the ground, playing dead. The land of 100 flowers was still shrouded in a thick fog, but the color of the fog had changed from pink to a faint gray. This was because the cultivators had used a large amount of the 100 flowers' baneful qi to condense their protective astral energy, leaving only the black 100 flowers miasma in the fog. That was why the fog had a faint gray color. Lu Ping moved his divine thought and immediately covered most of the land of flowers. He cleverly avoided a few patrolling Crystal Palace cultivators and slowly walked toward the depths of the land of flowers. At this moment, a divine sense casually swept across the land of 100 flowers. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat and he quickly took out 2 stone slabs from his storage ring. He placed one on his left and the other on his right. The divine sense swept past Lu Ping's body calmly, but it didn't find anything amiss. Then, the divine sense withdrew. It seemed that not only were there patrolling cultivators, but there were also cultivators who carefully checked with divine thought from time to time. The cultivators of the Crystal Palace paid a lot of attention to this place. Lu Ping continued to move toward the depths of the land of flowers. Every 100 meters, there would be 3 cultivators of the Crystal Palace patrolling. At the same time, in order to avoid the thick fog, they also used divine thought to check the surrounding area from time to time. Lu Ping gradually frowned. Why would the cultivators of the Crystal Palace pay so much attention to a land of flowers that had lost its flower king? Why would they send so many cultivators to patrol it? Lu Ping didn't believe that it was because of the evil qi of the flowers. After Lu Ping and senior brother Qi collected the evil qi, the remaining evil qi was extremely thin. The Crystal Palace wouldn't go through so much trouble just for a land of flowers. Moreover, the cultivators of the Crystal Palace were obviously strict on the inside. Apart from senior brother Ma, the 4 cultivators guarding the cave entrance had ordinary cultivations. The cultivators of the Crystal Palace inside the cave were either at the peak of the blood condensation realm or at the level 8 of the blood condensation realm. Spiritual energy rippled from their bodies. Obviously, their foundations were very solid. The 2 stone slabs in Lu Ping's hands were taken from the cave entrance. Not only could they avoid the detection of the cultivator's divine sense, but they could also hide the fluctuations of their Dharma power. Lu Ping used his divine sense and Qian Zhong millet flew out from his storage ring. It slowly opened above Lu Ping's head. More than 200 purple crystal bees swarmed out of their nest. In an instant, they spread out and flew toward the flowers in the land of flowers. The appearance of the purple crystal bees quickly attracted the attention of the patrolling cultivators. However, the land of 100 flowers was quite vast. With more than 200 purple crystal bees scattered, even if a cultivator accidentally found 1 or 2, it would not arouse their vigilance. The cultivators who found the purple crystal bees would not know that these bees with purple on their heads were the famous purple crystal bees in the cultivation world. Because the purple crystal bees would fly back to Lu Ping from time to time, Lu Ping had to wander around the land of flowers in order not to attract the attention of the cultivators in the Crystal Palace. Relying on the 2 stone slabs from the temple and his divine sense, which was far superior to others, he wasn't afraid of being discovered by the cultivators in the Crystal Palace. At this time, Lu Ping's divine sense suddenly discovered that the fog in the land of flowers suddenly started to flow slowly. The thin 100-flower evil qi contained in the fog also flowed southwest along with the flow of the fog. If it wasn't for Lu Ping's extraordinary divine sense, he probably wouldn't have discovered this trend. In the southwest, wasn't that the disciple of the Wang family condensing evil qi? He didn't expect this person to have a secret technique that could condense evil qi. Although the 100-flower evil qi in the land of flowers was thin, if one could use a secret technique to condense the evil qi in the land of flowers, it would be enough for a late blood condensation cultivator to condense their earth qi to perfection. Lu Ping didn't mind. Instead, he instinctively avoided the Wang family disciple and wandered in other directions. 2 days later, the purple crystal bees had collected and brewed quite a lot of honey. More than 200 purple crystal bees had all advanced to the first layer of blood refining realm, and more than 20 of them had already reached the peak of the first layer. Lu Ping believed that they would advance to the second layer in the next few days. Only when all the purple crystal bees reached the third layer of blood refining realm would a queen be born. At that time, Lu Ping's bee colony would expand, and only then would he be able to brew purple crystal royal jelly. However, he didn't know how long the millions of flowers in the land of flowers could last for the purple crystal bees. At this time, the 100-flower evil qi around Lu Ping suddenly stopped gathering in the southwest direction. It seemed that the Wang family cultivator who used the secret technique to condense the 100-flower evil qi had finished condensing his earth qi. But then, the Wang family cultivator suddenly disappeared from Lu Ping's divine sense. Chapter 248. Disappeared. Lu Ping was stunned. Lu Ping once again carefully explored the area where Wang Yimu was, but still found nothing. This is interesting. Lu Ping rubbed his chin and suddenly became interested in this cultivator of the Wang family. Lu Ping walked toward the area where Wang Yimu was and superimposed his divine sense. Lu Ping had used this method many times. Although it reduced the coverage of Lu Ping's divine sense by half, he could explore the area more thoroughly. This was also a common method that Lu Ping often used to detect cultivators who used spells such as invisibility. However, Wang Yimu's concealment method was obviously beyond Lu Ping's expectation. Lu Ping intended to superimpose his divine sense again, but in that case, such a thick divine sense would inevitably alert the cultivators of the Crystal Palace who were patrolling nearby. Just when Lu Ping was hesitating whether to use this method, his divine sense trembled slightly and captured some clues. It turned out that the cultivator of the Wang family was walking in the direction where Lu Ping was. Since he had found his trace, Lu Ping naturally would not let him disappear from his divine sense again. He immediately followed from a distance to see what this mysterious person was going to do. At this moment, Lu Ping's divine sense moved again and found that there was another thing moving quickly in front of Wang Yimu, and Wang Yimu was obviously following this thing. This is Spirit-Seeking Mouse. Lu Ping became more interested this time. The other party actually had a spirit-seeking mouse, and this spirit-seeking mouse seemed to have a cultivation of level 9 of blood refining realm. Obviously, it was deliberately cultivated. However, what was the other party looking for? Before this, Lu Ping had asked De Bao to search the land of 100 flowers for about half a day. With De Bao's cultivation of middle-stage blood refining realm, Lu Ping was confident that this spirit-seeking mouse would not find anything that even De Bao could not. In front of him was a huge pit created by Lu Ping after he moved the little peach tree monster to the 1000-bell millet. The spirit-seeking mouse ran to the bottom of the pit and sniffed around, but it couldn't find anything. It then ran back up dejectedly. Wang Yimu was not discouraged. He stroked the head of the spirit-seeking mouse, took out a pill from his storage bag and fed it. Spirit-addicting fragrance. This surprised Lu Ping again. He did not expect this cultivator from the Wang family to have such a treasure. Could there really be a treasure in the land of 100 flowers that Lu Ping had not discovered before? The spirit-addicting fragrance was actually a type of pill. The greatest use of this pill was to maximize the innate talent of the spirit pet. However, because this pill stimulated the spirit pet's innate talent, this spirit-seeking mouse probably had no hope of advancing to the blood condensation realm in the future. With this spirit-addicting fragrance, this spirit-seeking mouse's innate talent was no less than that of the spirit-seeking mouse in the blood condensation realm. With a thought, Lu Ping grabbed De Bao from the spirit beast pouch again. Poor De Bao had just recovered the spiritual energy it had used up a few days ago. It was sleeping in the spirit beast pouch to replenish its energy. It did not expect to be grabbed by Lu Ping again. De Bao was about to protest, but Lu Ping had already slapped its head first. After a brief conversation with Lu Ping, De Bao's spirit was instantly lifted. What? There is a treasure here that I have not discovered yet. And this treasure might have already been discovered by a spirit-seeking mouse that is far weaker than me and is rushing over now. A spirit-seeking mouse at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm? What a joke! So what if it ate the spirit-addicting fragrance? How could it be stronger than me, a mid-stage blood condensation realm cultivator? De Bao had long forgotten about Lu Ping's annoyance at waking him up. It sniffed the ground with its sharp nose, and as expected, it discovered something. Its 4 legs hidden under its belly moved quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it had overtaken the other spirit-seeking mouse that was moving forward hesitantly. Looks like there really is something good here. After moving forward for a distance, Lu Ping suddenly grabbed De Bao from the ground and looked ahead with a serious expression. Through Lu Ping's divine sense, he suddenly sensed a dozen Crystal Palace cultivators gathering in front of them. These cultivators were loosely forming a circle, as if they were guarding something inside. Moreover, these cultivators had set up many early warning restrictions in front of them. Once a cultivator touched these restrictions, the Crystal Palace cultivators would notice in advance. Lu Ping naturally knew where these Crystal Palace cultivators were guarding. This was because it was the pit that Lu Ping dug out with the level 9 white jade lotus and the small pool of Kuei water essence. What good things could there be there? Lu Ping frowned and pondered. Right, those few spiritual veins. Lu Ping's eyes lit up, but then he seemed to think that those few mini-spiritual veins were scattered spiritual veins condensed by the power of the entire land of flowers to nourish the king of flowers. After Lu Ping dug out the white jade lotus, these spiritual veins should have slowly dispersed. Could it be that the Crystal Palace cultivators found these spiritual veins and had a way to fix and transfer them? But for these 3 or 4 mini-spiritual veins, the Crystal Palace had mobilized too many people. Just when Lu Ping was puzzled, Wang Yimu, who had been left behind by Lu Ping, finally arrived nearby with the help of his spirit-seeking mouse. Lu Ping smirked maliciously, got out of the way, and quietly hid on the other side of the pit. After a while, he heard the Crystal Palace cultivators shout, "Who is it?" Wang Yimu, who had triggered the inhibition, was like a sensitive bird, desperately trying to escape. With the secret skill of hiding his breath, he instantly lost the perception of divine awareness. However, how could the alarmed Water Crystal Palace cultivators let the matter rest? While this place was not impregnable, despite being guarded by so many Water Crystal Palace cultivators, they had still allowed an outsider to enter. How could the Water Crystal Palace cultivators, who had always prided themselves on being the pride of the heavens, not feel enraged? Out of the 12 cultivators guarding the place, 10 of them rushed out. Thankfully, 2 of them retained some semblance of rationality. They did not forget their duty. Next, however, they saw a golden-colored flying sword fly out from the thick fog. The flying sword left a long trail of light behind it, instantly dazzling the 2 cultivators' eyes. By the time the 2 cultivators were able to adjust to the dazzling golden light, they saw that their respective backs had lost their heads. Lu Ping did not show any mercy when killing the Crystal Palace cultivators. The overflowing sea gang of the North Sea was obviously an extension of the Crystal Palace's power. Their hands were stained with the blood of the North Sea cultivators. Lu Ping reached out and took the 2 storage bags in his hand. He scanned them with his divine awareness. His luck was not bad. There was a top-grade flying sword inside. Although it was a lot worse than the Qinghan sword, it could temporarily make do with it. After all, the golden scale sword was a magic weapon, and it consumed too much magic power to use. The big pit in front of them was left by Lu Ping when he moved the white jade lotus pond. The difference was that at the bottom of the big pit, there was a big hole, or rather, a tunnel, that extended deep into the ground. The tunnel was dark, and only a weak but extremely pure spiritual energy was emitted. De Bao immediately ran to the side of Lu Ping's feet. There was a treasure down there. After pondering it for a moment, Lu Ping decided to head towards the entrance of the cave. When he reached the entrance of the cave, Lu Ping turned around and waved his hand to collect the corpses of the 2 Crystal Palace cultivators. At the same time, he wiped away the blood on the ground. It looked as though all the cultivators guarding the entrance of the cave had gone after the cultivator who had broken into the forbidden area. Although the tunnel was dark, after Lu Ping had moved forward for a certain distance, the stone walls around him gradually shone with a crystalline luster. The spiritual energy swirling around Lu Ping gradually grew thicker as well. Lu Ping was shocked. Could this be? After moving forward for a certain distance, clanking sounds finally came from the depths of the cave, further confirming Lu Ping's guess. Lu Ping used the Mirage Gauze robe to change his aura. He used the 2 stone slabs to prevent his divine awareness from probing and to conceal his magic power fluctuations. At the same time, he used the invisibility technique improved from the invisible sword formula to conceal his figure. Only then did he feel at ease and slowly walked in the direction of the sound. Senior Brother Wen, I'm afraid that no matter how hard the cultivators of the 3 Families Island and the Northern Alliance speculated, they would never have thought that there was not only a land of 100 flowers on this barren island, but also a medium-sized spirit stone vein under the land of 100 flowers. Hee, that's right. Our sect's firmament Laozu is a grandmaster who surveys all kinds of mineral veins and spirit veins. Through some kind of method, he has long found out that there is a spirit stone vein in the area of the 3 Families Alliance in the Fallen Mystery area. However, he has never been clear about its specific location. That's why our sect tried to break up the Three Families Alliance and make the Wang family of the Three Families Alliance join our Crystal Palace. Our purpose is to find a way to set our sect's influence in this area. After all, this area is nominally under the protection of the Northern Alliance. Unexpectedly, we accidentally found this vein in the Land of Hundred Flowers. Thanks to Sage Kunshin's superior wisdom, Sage Wang Hua was able to give this island to our sect with just a few words. They are just some blind cultivators. I think they have reached the early stage of the core forging realm by luck. They can't be compared with Sage Kunshin. It's extremely dangerous. I heard that someone found the King of Hundred Flowers in the Land of Hundred Flowers before Sage Kunshin's disciple, Qi Shimen, and took it away. Fortunately, that person was also blind and didn't know that there was a medium-sized spirit stone vein under the King of Hundred Flowers. So that's how it is. They are really blind. Lu Ping gave a wry smile. No wonder the white jade lotus could gather 4 or 5 mini-spirit veins. He had always thought that those spirit veins were formed by gathering the power of the entire Land of Hundred Flowers. Now that he thought about it, this explanation was really a bit far-fetched. After all, the entire Land of Hundred Flowers could condense a pool of Kuei water essence for the white jade lotus. Now that he had come here, how could Lu Ping return empty-handed from a treasure mountain? Rubbing his chin, Lu Ping began to think about how to avoid those cultivators and make a fortune without being noticed. Chapter 249. Since he was already here, how could Lu Ping return empty-handed after entering a treasure mountain? Lu Ping rubbed his chin and began to think about how to make a fortune without anyone noticing. If he wanted to enter the vein, the 2 cultivators guarding the vein were an obstacle. At this moment, someone outside the cave called out, "Senior Brother Wen, Senior Brother Tian, what's the matter down there? What's wrong? What happened?" The 2 cultivators guarding the vein knew that there were 12 cultivators guarding the cave entrance, but now they asked if something happened in the vein. Obviously, there was something wrong on the ground. The 2 hurriedly ran out of the cave and asked. "Here's my chance." Lu Ping was delighted. He grabbed Debao's whiskers and leaned against the stone wall. 1 person and 1 mouse once again crashed into the stone wall. The 2 Crystal Palace cultivators who ran over did not notice that Lu Ping was hiding behind them. After the 2 passed by, Lu Ping came out of the wall with Debao and quickly walked toward the vein. Spirit stone veins were a peculiar existence. The peculiar thing was that under certain conditions, they could be regenerated, and the cycle of this regeneration was generally about 500 years. Therefore, whenever a spirit stone vein was discovered, cultivators would often estimate the reserves of the spirit stone vein and set a daily mining volume with a cycle of 500 years. Then, mining and backfilling would be carried out at the same time. This way, the spirit stone vein could continuously produce a fixed amount of spirit stones every day. Of course, all of this was under an ideal situation. The process of mining and self-regeneration of the spirit stone vein was always accompanied by the dissipation of spirit qi. Therefore, in fact, the spirit stone reserves in the spirit stone vein would eventually become less and less. It was just that this time would be delayed for a long time. And the other dissipated spirit qi, under the magical effect of nature, would form new spirit veins again in a specific environment for cultivators to rediscover and excavate. This medium-sized vein had a total of 20 veins. Now, only 4 had been mined. The spirit stone miners inside were all blood-refining realm cultivators, and the clanking sounds were everywhere. It seemed that the Crystal Palace's plan was to mine every 4 veins in 100 years. After backfilling, they would mine the other 4 veins. After this cycle, exactly 500 years would have passed, and the first 4 veins could be mined and backfilled again. Without needing Lu Ping's instructions, Debao stepped forward and chose a vein that it thought was of the best quality among the 16 unmined veins. Then, it plunged into it. Just as the two Crystal Palace cultivators outside the cave were about to return, Debeo finally came out of the vein and disappeared again with Lu Ping. Those fellows outside are truly good-for-nothings. To think that they would allow a cultivator to reach the entrance of the cave before realizing it. Although the Spirit Stone mine is not exposed, our Crystal Palace has made a great discovery on an island within the Three Families Alliance's territory. This news will likely spread throughout the entire Fallen Pocket Zone in no time at all. Senior Brother Wen's face was extremely ugly to behold. The Wang family is so bold to set a trap for the Crystal Palace. Aren't they afraid of being exterminated? Brother Tian scolded fiercely. The Wang family may not have the courage. This disciple of the Wang family must have acted on his own. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that someone is impersonating him. Brother Wen thought for a while and calmly analyzed. At this moment, a voice-transmitting talisman floated in front of Brother Wen. He grabbed the talisman and listened to it for a while. Then, his expression changed. He snorted coldly and passed the talisman to Brother Tian next to him. When Senior Brother Tian heard the message from the voice transmission talisman, he mumbled, "How could they have escaped? Even if the other party had someone to support them, how could so many brothers not be able to stop two people?" Brother Wen said coldly, "After they left the nameless island, they didn't return to the Bright Moon Island where the Wang family is stationed. Instead, they fled in the direction of the 27th Outer Island. Some brothers have already chased after them. Brother Ma, who is on duty there, has already informed Kunshinjinren. I think Kunshinjinren will catch up with them soon. Once they are caught, let's see what the Wang family will say." Brother Tian said gloatingly, "Brother Ma is doomed. He not only let the spy in, but also failed to stop them. I heard that he has long wanted to condense the 4 spots for the 100 flowers killing aura. Kunshinjinren is also considering it. Now, not to mention the spots, he will have to face the wall for at least 10 years. If the news of the medium-sized spirit stone vein on the island is leaked, he will die." Debeo was indeed a master of digging holes. In a moment of effort, he had made a space for Lu Ping to squat down in the vein. Although there was a stone wall between them, and Lu Ping's spiritual sense was greatly weakened, but Lu Ping still clearly heard the conversation between Brother Wen and Brother Tian. However, Lu Ping didn't care about this now, because all his attention was on the spirit stone vein in front of him. A medium-sized spirit stone vein was already a mixture of low-grade and medium-grade spirit stones. But more importantly, a medium-sized spirit stone vein would occasionally be mixed with some high-grade spirit stones, although the probability was very small. For the sake of long-term considerations, cultivators generally planned a spirit stone vein for a period of 500 years, and then used this to determine whether the output of the spirit stone vein was small, medium-sized, or large-scale. But this didn't mean that the spirit stone vein couldn't be overexploited. On the contrary, once overexploited, a small spirit stone vein could easily produce the output of a large-scale spirit stone vein in a short period of time, but the consequence was that the spirit stone vein was likely to be exhausted after a few decades. What Lu Ping wanted to do now was to exhaust the goose that laid the golden eggs. The reason was very simple. In the game of the various forces in the East China Sea, his name would not be on the list of the owner of this spirit vein. Since it was not mine, why should I care about him? Lu Ping's idea was very simple. He asked Debeo to continuously dig several cave spaces along this spirit vein, and then let his pets go together. In each space, he let 2 spirit beasts dig spirit stones from 2 opposite directions. This way, it would be fast, the harvest would be big, and it would save time. His 6 demonic beasts, plus Lu Ping, made a total of 7 laborers. In this spirit vein, apart from cultivating every day, they were constantly digging spirit stones. In order not to arouse the vigilance of the cultivators in the Crystal Palace, Lu Ping deliberately let Debeo continue to dig several deep holes in the depths of the spirit vein. In this way, even if there was a core forging sage to investigate, Lu Ping would not be afraid of being discovered. Lu Ping opened the Qianzhong Su, so that his demonic beasts could freely enter and exit this spatial artifact. Then, a steady stream of spirit stones was piled up in a corner of the artifact. However, Lu Ping specifically told them that once they found a high-grade spirit stone, they must give it to him alone. Lu Ping put it in his own storage ring. The use of high-grade spirit stones was far above its value. In a trance, half a year had passed. Suddenly, there was a rumbling vibration on the ground, and a strange force was being transmitted along the spirit vein, as if to completely seal the area where the spirit vein was located. Chapter 250. Oh no, this is the pulse-suppressing spirit-locking great array. Did they finally finish setting it up? Without thinking, Lu Ping took back the Qianzhong millet, and then rolled the 5 spirit beasts into the spirit beast bag. Riding on Debeo, they flew to the ground. The pulse-suppressing spirit-locking great array was used to confine the earth veins, to prevent the loss of spiritual qi, and to prevent theft and destruction from the outside. This kind of great array was usually used by big sects to confine spiritual minds or earth veins. Once this kind of great array was used, it basically meant that the sect had declared the ownership of the spiritual mine or earth veins. Of course, Lu Ping knew how important a medium-sized spiritual stone mine was to a sect, so this great array would definitely be used. However, the arrangement of the pulse-suppressing spirit-locking great array was really complicated and delicate, and most of the materials used were of high grade. In addition, the Crystal Palace was so far away from the fallen secret land. In Lu Ping's opinion, it would take at least a year for the great array to be set up. By then, he could naturally leave in advance without being noticed. After all, Lu Ping had underestimated the power of the Crystal Palace, the giant of the East Sea. As Lu Ping broke away from the shackles of the great array, he was secretly anxious. This kind of great array required the help of spiritual masters in the core forging realm. If he was discovered by a spiritual master in the core forging realm, Lu Ping would really die here. Lu Ping emerged from the ground with 2 big slates on his head, and happened to encounter a divine thought wandering nearby. Cold sweat suddenly flowed down Lu Ping's back, and he stood there holding the 2 slates, not daring to move. The divine thought wandered around for a while and then withdrew, not finding Lu Ping on the side. Lu Ping managed to escape death, but he didn't dare to put down the stone slab in his hand for even a second. Along the way, he evaded a few groups of patrolling disciples from the Crystal Palace. Clearly, these disciples didn't do their best to investigate. After all, there were several core forging realm enlightened masters here today. Who would dare to come and seek death? Lu Ping didn't have the time or mood to sigh about his good luck. He opened Qianzhong millet and called back all the purple crystal bees that were still lingering in the land of 100 flowers. He quickly approached the entrance of the cave with Debeo. Naturally, he wouldn't go out directly. Instead, he grabbed Debeo from the stone wall at the entrance and escaped to the stone slope outside. Fortunately, Debeo had been cultivating and digging spirit stones in the spiritual stone vein for more than half a year. His cultivation was close to the blood condensation realm, and his spiritual energy was much stronger. Otherwise, Lu Ping would have to find a way to help. Debeo up the spiritual energy first. On the big stone slope of the nameless island, a man and a mouse slowly rose up from a big rock. This time, however, they were not so lucky. In addition to the 4 cultivators from Water Crystal Palace, there were also 5 to 6 cultivators in different attire. The narrow entrance of the cave was simply incapable of accommodating so many people. Thus, the cultivators who were familiar with each other spread out to chat with each other. What was even more unfortunate was that a man and a woman, who seemed to be in love, happened to be standing face to face in front of the big rock that Lu Ping appeared on. When Lu Ping rose from the big rock, he happened to be standing next to the 2 cultivators who were in the middle of a deep conversation. The 2 were shocked by Lu Ping's strange method. The 2, who were immersed in the river of love, obviously lost the reaction that a cultivator should have. Just when the two realized what they should do, the golden scale sword had already slashed their throats. The fluctuation of spiritual energy finally alerted the cultivators nearby. Everyone's divine sense swept over to investigate. Lu Ping used the mirage gauze robe to cover his face and muddle his aura. He used the two big stone slabs to block the divine sense and divine sense from locking onto him. Then, he used the invisible sword art to conceal himself. Finally, he used the magic cloud to fly away from the island. Only heaven knew how many forces and core forging enlightened masters were on the island. Who dares to behave atrociously here? An angry roar pierced through the air and a domineering divine sense had already arrived. However, when the divine sense passed through Lu Ping's body, it was as if the divine sense had punched nothing but air. There was no force behind it at all. Lu Ping released the 3 spirit snakes from the spirit beast bag. Samling worked together with Lu Ping's crazy output of spiritual energy. In the blink of an eye, the magic cloud had already flown several miles away. Just when a black-faced Taoist jumped out of the cave on the nameless island, Lu Ping's shadow was already nowhere to be seen in the sky. At this moment, a muffled bang suddenly came from under the feet of the black-faced Taoist. The entire nameless island shook, and a tsunami tens of feet high rose from the sea, rushing towards the island. The black-faced Taoist impatiently waved his hand, and the raging waves suddenly calmed down. The vein suppression spirit lock array was finally completed. The middle-sized spirit vein was imprisoned inside and became the property of all the forces present. They no longer had to worry about anyone coveting this spirit vein. The black-faced Taoist was about to give chase when a faint voice came, "Brotherly, there is no need to chase. This person's spiritual energy is even stronger than Qi Lianying's. I'm afraid it is already too late to catch up." Lu Ping had changed directions several times during his escape. At this time, he was nearly 100 miles away from the nameless island. After landing on a coral reef on the sea, Lu Ping fiercely gasped for breath. Lu Ping had always been proud of his spiritual energy against cultivators of the same level as him. But during this period of time, he had repeatedly shown signs of lacking spiritual energy. This really made Lu Ping feel helpless. Lu Ping took out a spiritual recovery pill from his storage ring and swallowed it. Only then did he return to Soundwave Island. When he returned to the cultivation room, Lu Ping did not alert anyone on the island. Lu Ping used his divine sense to scan the island and found that Wu Yan and Hong Ying were on the island. He then sent a voice transmission to summon the two to his cave abode. While the two were walking, Lu Ping opened the 1,000-bell millet to check his harvest for the past 6 months. He saw a group of amethyst bees rebuilding their nest. Only then did Lu Ping notice that the swarm of amethyst bees had grown to the size of an egg. More than 200 amethyst bees had all reached the second layer of blood refining realm. The leading amethyst bees had broken through to the third layer. They were only one step away from the birth of a queen bee. Under the peach tree in the middle of the 1,000-bell millet, a pile of shining spirit stones was neatly stacked into several piles. Among them, there were 15 piles of low-grade spirit stones, each pile was 100,000 spirit stones. There were 5 piles of mid-grade spirit stones, each pile was 2,000 spirit stones. In total, there were 2 million spirit stones. Lu Ping was dumbfounded. Wasn't it a bit too harsh? However, he and his 6 spiritual pets still spent half of their time on cultivation every day. After all, although the concentration of spiritual energy in the spirit mine was not as high as that of a mid-grade spirit vein, it was not too far off from a small-grade spirit vein. Of course, Lu Ping did not include the 50 high-grade spirit stones in his storage ring. At this time, Wu Yan and Hong Ying had already entered the cultivation room. When Wu Yan saw Lu Ping, she happily said, "Young master, you're finally back." During this period of time, the Three-Island Alliance has been in a precarious situation, which directly affected the 27 outer islands. Without young master, our 3 islands have lost their backbone. Although Hongying did not show his emotions on his face like Wu Yan, his expression also looked a lot more relaxed. It was obvious that these days had not been easy for them. Chapter 251. This time, Lu Ping used the 1,000 spiritual wine to serve them. Lu Ping originally planned to use 500-year-old spiritual herbs to brew a new 100 spiritual wine, but he couldn't bear to do so. During this trip to the Nameless Island, Lu Ping had concocted many pills for the Blue Phoenix and Samling, so he had used up most of the spiritual herbs he had. So, he could only use the 1,000 spiritual wine brewed from hundreds of century-old spiritual herbs to serve them. Hongying drank half of the cup of 1,000 spiritual wine. As soon as the wine entered his stomach, it turned into pure spiritual energy and quickly merged with his arcane energy, causing his arcane energy to surge violently. Hongying shouted, "This is really good wine." Wu Yan seemed to be a little drunk. She drank a mouthful of 1,000 spiritual wine, and her face turned slightly red. Lu Ping took out 2 large gourds and placed them on the wooden table. This 1,000 spiritual wine is very useful for blood condensation cultivators to recover their spiritual energy quickly. Although it is not as good as spirit recovery pills, it is much cheaper. I noticed that the fallen secret land is not peaceful recently. Distribute these 2 gourds of 1,000 spiritual wine to the mid-blood condensation cultivators. If they are in danger, they will have a backup plan. Wu Yan took the 2 gourds of 1,000 spiritual wine. These 2 gourds were the last of Lu Ping's stock. The spiritual energy in the wine was negligible to Lu Ping, but for the mid-blood condensation cultivators, it might be a life-saving measure. Lu Ping turned to Hongying and asked, "What happened in the fallen secret land in the past half a year? Why didn't I see Yi Buki on the island?" Hongying pondered for a moment, as if he was organizing his words. Then, he said, "Young lord, the alliance of the 3 clans is about to collapse. I'm afraid the 27 outer islands will be affected as well. Qi Lianying has already escaped. Her 5 islands are now occupied by other cultivators who have entered the fallen secret land." Lu Ping wasn't surprised at all. What happened half a year ago? Hongying pondered for a moment, then said, "It's hard to believe. Half a year ago, someone who claimed to be a disciple of the Wang family was rescued by Qi Lianying. He claimed that the cultivators of the Crystal Palace occupied the Nameless Island in the middle of the Arcane Realm because they had already discovered a medium-sized spirit stone mine there. Their choice to cooperate with the Wang family was just to find a legitimate excuse to enter the Northern Alliance's territory. When the news spread out, many of them did not believe it. Due to that, the Wang family simply announced that they were expelling him from the Wang family. However, the news quickly spread through the Fallen Pocket Zone. Additionally, there were many different versions of the story. Even the cultivators outside the Fallen Pocket Zone found out that the Crystal Palace was preparing to plunder a mid-sized spirit mine belonging to the Northern Alliance. The Crystal Palace repeatedly said that it was just a rumor, but there were still cultivators who tried to take the risk to investigate the Nameless Island. However, they were quickly discovered and killed by the cultivators of the Crystal Palace. Not only did the Crystal Palace's ruthless methods not work, but the Crystal Palace's strict defense of the Nameless Island seemed to prove that the rumor was true. At that moment, the cultivators of the Crystal Palace, led by a perfected cultivator of the core forging realm, suddenly attacked Flying Rainbow Island, where Qi Lianying was, and the other 4 islands that she occupied. However, they found that the 5 islands were empty, and Qi Lianying was nowhere to be seen. The Crystal Palace quickly issued an arrest warrant for Qi Lianying in the East Sea. A perfected cultivator of the Crystal Palace received a secret report and intercepted Qi Lianying, who was hiding in a sea area outside the Fallen Pocket Zone. However, after fighting for a while, the perfected cultivator couldn't do anything to the female cultivator at the peak of the blood condensation realm. Qi Lianying escaped from his hands and disappeared. This battle made Qi Lianying famous in the territory of the Northern Alliance. It seemed to have overturned the invincible image of the Crystal Palace in the hearts of the cultivators of the East Sea. More and more cultivators swarmed into the sea area of the three families and appeared around the nameless island. At the same time, they appealed to the Northern Alliance to uphold justice. After all, the nameless island was within the territory of the three families and was under the protection of the Northern Alliance. Now, the Crystal Palace was like a dragon crossing the river, but they were targeting the local snake of the Northern Alliance. This was something that the cultivators of the Northern Alliance couldn't tolerate. The Wang family finally realized that the cultivators of the Crystal Palace obviously had an ulterior motive for getting close to the Wang family. They were secretly planning to sell the mineral vein. Once the Crystal Palace monopolized the mineral vein, the Wang family would definitely be the first target for the Northern Alliance to vent their anger. At that time, the Crystal Palace would probably push the Wang family out as a scapegoat. After the Wang family woke up, they quickly sent Perfected Wang Hua to question the Perfected Kunshan of the Crystal Palace about whether there was a mineral vein on the nameless island. If it was a false rumor, they should contact all forces to check the island as soon as possible and clarify the truth. The Wang family's betrayal showed the cultivators of the Northern Alliance that they had been deceived and allowed the Wang family to return to the arms of the Northern Alliance. However, the Crystal Palace was caught unprepared. With the Wang family taking the lead, the Zhang family, who had always been the spokesperson of the Northern Alliance, together with the Li family, proposed to the Crystal Palace that they should withdraw from the nameless island and the three forces should cooperate to investigate the mineral vein thoroughly. Then, all the forces of the Northern Alliance asked the Crystal Palace to withdraw from the occupied Northern Alliance islands. Then, the Northern Alliance formally negotiated with the Crystal Palace, asking for a thorough investigation of the medium-sized mineral vein on the nameless island. They would send perfected cultivators in the core forging realm to the island to take charge of this matter. The two giants of Donghai finally began to confront each other head-on. However, this was the hinterland of the Northern Alliance after all. The Northern Alliance had the geographical advantage. Although the Crystal Palace was powerful, several other forces in Donghai also followed the request of the Northern Alliance. The Crystal Palace could not do anything alone. In the end, they retreated and admitted that they had accidentally discovered the medium-sized mineral vein on the nameless island, but denied that it was a deliberate plot. At this point, the incident had come to an end. As for whether the Crystal Palace had accidentally discovered it or a deliberate plot, every practitioner naturally knew clearly in their hearts. The ending incident was about the distribution of the spiritual stones after the mining of the mineral vein. The Northern Alliance naturally took the majority, followed by the Crystal Palace. All the forces were beating the drum loudly. Of course, they also wanted to share the benefits. With the intervention of the Northern Alliance, the arrangement of the pulse-suppressing spirit-locking matrix was naturally fast. It was completed in only half a year and the matrix began to be activated. However, they did not expect that a practitioner had already sneaked into the mineral vein, dug out millions of spiritual stones from one of the mineral veins, and escaped when the perfected cultivators were busy activating the matrix. Now the practitioners in the fallen secret land were most concerned about two things. One was whether Qi Lianying could continue to escape from the arrest of the Crystal Palace, the other was how many spiritual stones the mysterious practitioner had stolen from the mineral vein. After listening to Red Eagle's narration, Lu Ping frowned and thought for a while. It seemed that this time the Crystal Palace should have fallen into a trap. Qi Lianying could escape from the pursuit of a perfected cultivator in the core forging realm perhaps because she was really powerful. However, it was impossible for her to escape from the pursuit of the Crystal Palace without a huge force behind her to cover her tracks. In addition to the rumors, it was obvious that someone was behind all this. However, Lu Ping didn't know how this faction discovered the mid-sized spirit mine on the nameless island. He didn't think that this faction would use a mid-sized spirit mine in advance to set up a trap that could at most annoy the Crystal Palace, but wouldn't be able to hurt the Crystal Palace. Lu Ping suddenly thought of the Li family. There should be a mysterious force behind this family. During the underground trade fair on Sanja Island, through the mysterious female alchemist Chu Ting, they schemed against the Crystal Palace and expelled the practitioners of the Crystal Palace from the island. Moreover, by chance, Lu Ping also knew that the Li family and the Crystal Palace had a lot of hatred. When Lu Ping first arrived at the East Sea, the practitioners in a secret stronghold of the Crystal Palace were all killed by Li Shuzhu, the eldest daughter of the Li family. Young master, seeing that Lu Ping was thinking about something, Red Eagle could not help but remind him, after the incident with Qi Lianying, the three families' alliance has now strengthened the management of the 27 outer islands, especially the Wang family. Not only did they offer more offerings, but they are also preparing to reorganize the forces for their own use. They are lobbying everywhere. Lu Ping said indifferently, the Wang family is afraid. This time, in order to protect the family, the Wang family attacked the Crystal Palace, but they also did not please the Northern Alliance. Now the Wang family is in a difficult situation. What they are most afraid of is the Zhang family and the Li family working together to suppress them. The Zhang family and the Li family will not sit by and do nothing since they are so eager to gather their forces. Red Eagle said again, after Qi Lianying left, the 5 islands became empty, causing many forces to fight for them. Many practitioners who have just entered the fallen secret land also joined in. The outer islands are in chaos now. Yi Buki and his brothers are always outside to patrol the 3 islands, in case someone is plotting against them. Lu Ping's eyes narrowed. Someone is plotting against us. Red Eagle said hesitantly, I'm not sure yet, but there are indeed a few practitioners who have not yet established a foothold near Hearing Waves Island, Red Shadow Island, and Sunglow Island. It is better to be safe than sorry. Lu Ping chuckled coldly and didn't say anything else. Red Eagle was also a person who had experienced life and death. Just when Lu Ping sneered, he clearly felt a bone-chilling coldness from Lu Ping. Red Eagle's heart trembled. How many people must have died in his hands to form such a strong evil qi? When night fell, Yi Buki returned from patrolling the islands. Lu Ping inadvertently asked him about the practitioners who had just entered the fallen secret land. Which of them were spying on Hearing Waves Island, Red Shadow Island, and Sunglow Island? After getting the answer, Lu Ping didn't say anything more. He went back to his cave residence to cultivate. In the darkness of the night, he could vaguely hear the crisp chirping of birds and the rustling sound, as if a breeze was blowing the green grass. The next day, after patrolling the islands, Yi Buki reported to Lu Ping, last night, several groups of foreign forces were attacked by demonic beasts. The leaders of those groups were all killed. One had his head smashed, one had his heart torn, and 3 seemed to have been poisoned to death. One's whole body was frozen and would shatter at the slightest touch. One's whole body was rotten beyond recognition. The last one's bones and flesh were separated and became soft. Chapter 252. The mysterious deaths of the 5 leaders had startled all the forces on the outer islands. They had all calmed down, and the 27 outer islands seemed to have returned to their former tranquility. Hong Ying looked at Lu Ping with more respect. He wondered how many more trump cards this young lord had up his sleeves. Yi Buki didn't say anything, which made the Red Eagle secretly exclaim that Yi Buki's temperament was higher than his. However, he didn't know that Yi Buki had already become immune to these things after seeing more shocking things. The day of the Northern Alliance Elixir meeting was getting closer and closer. Lu Ping arranged for Yi Buki and his brothers to look after his home, while he took only the Red Eagle and Wu Yan with him, and set out for Heaven Yuan City. There was no teleportation formation in the fallen secret area to Heaven Yuan City, so the Red Eagle suggested that the 3 of them should first go to a city on a medium-sized island. Every island of the Northern Alliance had a teleportation formation that was connected to Heaven Yuan City. They only needed to pay some spirit stones, and they would be able to reach Heaven Yuan City quickly. However, Lu Ping didn't agree. After he had arrived at the East Sea, he had only traveled near the 3 cities and the fallen secret area. He hadn't enjoyed the scenery of the East Sea, so he insisted on flying to Heaven Yuan City on his flying device. The Red Eagle and Wu Yan naturally didn't dare to argue with him. The three of them drove their flying devices, and enjoyed the scenery of the East Sea along the way. With the Red Eagle as an experienced horse, Lu Ping had a good time on the way. After 10 days, the scenery along the way had opened up Lu Ping's mind. He couldn't help but let out a long whistle. The sound waves spread out, and the calm sea of the East Sea was suddenly covered with countless waves, as if they were responding to his whistle. Every time a wave flew up, Lu Ping stretched out his hand and pointed at it. The waves suddenly turned into a sparkling water sword, or like a fish in the water, full of natural intelligence, dancing on the surface of the sea. 324 waves rose in a row, forming 324 running and playing swordfish on the surface of the sea. Sometimes they gathered on the surface of the sea, and sometimes they fled. They were having a lot of fun. Wu Yan did not know the meaning behind it, only feeling that it was miraculous. Hong Ying, on the other hand, had a mixture of shock and perplexity on his face. He knew that Lu Ping was displaying an extremely profound sword technique, and this sword technique was most likely related to the legendary sword intent. However, as for the specifics, he did not know. Red Eagle shook his head with a bitter smile. Back then, he had unintentionally comprehended force, and after gradually understanding and grasping force, he could be considered an expert among his fellow rogue cultivators. And this young man in front of him, who knew how much younger than him, had clearly comprehended concept to an extremely high level. This also strengthened Red Eagle's determination to follow Lu Ping even more. 324 Psychic Sword Lights. Lu Ping smiled slightly in his heart. His sword technique had improved by another level. Lu Ping loosened his hands, and the frolicking swordfish on the surface of the sea jumped into the sea and disappeared. Lu Ping clapped his hands, turned around and said with a smile, "Let's go." The three of them each had their own thoughts. After a moment, Lu Ping suddenly stopped on the surface of the sea. Red Eagle and Wu Yan did not know what was going on, so they also stopped. Lu Ping muttered to himself for a moment, then turned around and said, "Red Eagle, Wu Yan, the two of you go first. Wait for me at Qianyuan City's Listening Sound Building. I met an interesting person, so I'll go take a look first." Red Eagle and Wu Yan wanted to say something, but Lu Ping smiled and said, "Don't worry, wait for me in the city. I'll be there in a day or two at most." The two of them were helpless. They knew that if Lu Ping really had something to do, the two of them would most likely not be able to help. They could only say, "Be careful." The two of them left first. Seeing that the two of them had gone far away, Lu Ping's expression became slightly more serious. He turned around and flew towards the sea in the west. In the sky a few miles away from where Lu Ping and Red Eagle parted ways, a battle was in full swing. A red-robed core forging enlightened master was chasing and attacking a green-robed woman. The woman tried her best to defend herself, but she was only at the peak of the blood condensation realm. Under the red-robed Daoist's attacks, she was in a difficult position. She could only defend but not fight back. "Ha, Qi Lianying, didn't you say that you could escape from a core forging enlightened master? Why aren't you running? Why aren't you running? Today, I will capture you and let you know the prestige of the Crystal Palace. No one has ever escaped from the Crystal Palace's punishment. Let's see your stinking fart." The green-robed girl, Qi Lianying, was very fierce. Her first words made Lu Ping, who was hiding in the distance, look at her in a new light. "If it weren't for the fact that I was in a hurry and fell into your trap due to my carelessness, do you think you could stop me with your core forging stage cultivation?" "Hee, what do you mean by trap? Your enemy recognizes you, but you don't recognize your enemy. You deserve to be injured by my palm. Do you think I have to jump in front of you and say, 'I am the Crystal Palace's Hong Shikue, and I want to capture you right now'? Then I'm the one who's crazy." Hong Shikue had the upper hand, so he was not in a hurry. He only used the two jade rings. One emitted rings of fire, while the other emitted rings of ice. The ice and fire rings flew towards Qi Lianying one after another. Once there were too many of them, she would not be able to break them in time and would be trapped inside. Hong Shikui had made up his mind to capture Qi Lianying alive. Qi Lianying used 2 sleeves, one green and the other red. As she waved them, they looked like 2 spiritual snakes. Even Hong Shikui was a little afraid of them. Qi Lianying, as long as you surrender and tell us who the mastermind is, I, Hong Shikui, can guarantee that our sect will spare your life. What do you think? Hong Shikui tried to break Qi Lianying's will to fight with words after failing to do so. He, if you spare my life, will I serve you in the future? Qi Lianying was already covered in sweat, but she still joked without hesitation. That's not necessarily impossible as long as you tell me who the mastermind is. Hong Shikui naturally wouldn't take it seriously and just sneered. What do you mean? I am just a guest behind the scenes, a servant under your skirt. Why would I need someone to order me around? Qi Lianying was as fierce as ever. Then don't blame me for being rude. Hong Shikui was not easy to deal with. He had already prepared a set of killer moves while he was talking. Ice and fire rings, chilling and hot 9 heavens. Hong Shikui shook his hands, and 3 rings flew out from each of the ice and fire rings. Each ring suddenly fused together, but strangely, there was no repulsion between them. The combined ice and fire rings had already flown above Qi Lianying's head, trying to trap her. Snake dance. Qi Lianying's face was solemn. Her green and red sleeves flew out like 2 slithering spiritual snakes. After one attack, she retreated and waited for an opportunity to strike again, blocking the ice and fire rings above her head. Suddenly, Qi Lianying's face changed, and she shouted, "Oh no!" Her sleeves fluttered in the wind as she tried to protect herself. However, the ring of ice and fire above her head suddenly exploded. Most of the scattered ice and fire Jin Yuan was blocked by Qi Lianying, but some still managed to hit her body. Her hair was immediately disheveled, and she was in a sorry state. Qi Lianying shouted, "Hong Shikui, I want you to die a horrible death." He, you have no chance. Hong Shikui pointed his finger, and the 2 ice and fire rings flew toward Qi Lianying again. Qi Lianying's face was pale, and her face was full of despair. At this time, a magnificent golden sword Qi suddenly appeared in the sky. In the body of the sword Qi, countless sword Qi swam back and forth like fish, but it also emitted a strong sharp Qi. True Essence 1 Sword Qi. Chapter 253. Unity of Practice and Sword. Hong Shikui turned pale with fright. The magnificent sword Qi had already smashed the 2 ice and fire rings, and the sword Qi had also collapsed. The aftermath did not stop, and countless fine sword Qi directly shot toward Hong Shikui. Hong Shikui's face was as serious as dripping water. The ice ring in his left hand flew over his head, and a white ice wall hung down. The psychic sword Qi hit the ice wall, and in a moment, the ice wall was smashed, and the psychic sword Qi was also destroyed. May I ask which Taoism fellow cultivator wants to interfere in the affairs of the Crystal Palace? This person is the wanted criminal of the Crystal Palace, Qi Lianying. If you leave now, the Crystal Palace will let bygones be bygones. A cultivator with an indistinct face, who seemed to be covered by an invisible veil, was standing on a white cloud and slowly approaching. A golden flying sword was hovering above his head, like a naughty fish playing silently in the water. Obviously, Hong Shikui's words did not have the desired effect. The cultivator on the white cloud casually made a sword spell, and the golden flying sword shook above his head, suddenly becoming 180 feet long. The huge sword rose into the sky, and followed the cultivator's finger, directly chopping toward Hong Shikui. Law Phenomenon Skill. This is a magic treasure, you are a perfected cultivator of the core forging stage. Hong Shikui screamed, and then said, No, your Dharma power has not transformed into the genuine essence, and you have not reached the core forging stage. How can you use the law phenomenon skill? Hong Shikue, who had a strange look on his face, naturally knew how powerful it was. He had just reached the core forging stage, and his cultivation had not been consolidated yet, so he could not fully exert the strength of the core forging stage. Seeing the flying sword coming, he had to temporarily avoid it. The person was Lu Ping, who came on a magic cloud. With Lu Ping's help, Qi Lianing narrowly escaped death. Just as she was about to yell at Hong Shikue, her pale face suddenly turned red. She could no longer control herself and spat out a mouthful of blood. After Qi Lianing was injured by Hong Shikue's palm, she fought against Hong Shikue with all her might, not daring to show the slightest sign of injury. However, after receiving such a strong support, she could no longer control the injury in her body. After spurting out blood, she seemed to have lost half of her spirit. Her two fluttering sleeves also seemed to have lost their spirituality. She could only barely control them, cooperating with Lu Ping to attack Hong Shikue from the side. Who are you? Ever since Hong Shikue advanced to the core forging stage, he had returned from the North Sea in defeat. The frustration of being demoted to the Northern Alliance's territory by the sect had been swept away. Now that he had regained the sect's recognition and importance, he was in high spirits. His luck seemed to have improved with the improvement of his cultivation. An ordinary letter delivery mission had led him to encounter Qi Lianing, a wanted criminal of the sect. Hong Shikue, who was eager to contribute to the sect, had everything going smoothly. After Qi Lianing was injured by him, he had lost the chance to escape and could only put up a desperate fight. It was only a matter of time before he failed. Hong Shikue suddenly felt the sect's appreciation and respect for him. However, Lu Ping's appearance was like a hammer to his head. He never thought that one day, after he advanced to the core forging stage, he would be completely defeated by a blood condensation stage cultivator. In addition, Qi Lianing, who was seriously injured but still had some strength left, was causing trouble for him. Hong Shikue's battle with the two peak blood condensation stage cultivators was becoming more and more dangerous. This is absolutely impossible. Hong Shikue looked at the cultivator in front of him who was deliberately concealing his appearance. Every time he tried to use his divine sense to uncover the cultivator's true appearance, there would always be a layer of power that seemed to be both divine sense and divine sense blocking his divine sense. At the same time, the cultivator's aura was extremely strange. It was chaotic and irregular, so Hong Shikue's divine sense couldn't completely grasp it. That's right. This person must be a core forging stage cultivator. He just used a special technique to conceal his appearance and cultivation. Otherwise, how could a blood condensation stage cultivator block his divine sense and force him into such a predicament? Moreover, Hong Shikue was quite familiar with the cultivator's ability to change his secret technique. After pondering for a while, he suddenly remembered that when he was the hall master of the North Sea Overturned Sea Gang, he once heard a cultivator from the Chiu family of Chiu Yun Island talking about the various sects in the North Sea. When they talked about the Sea Flame sect, they mentioned that the sect had a magical artifact called the Mirage Gauze Robe. When worn by a cultivator, it could make the cultivator's aura ethereal, making it very difficult to detect. Wasn't this cultivator using the Mirage Gauze Robe? This person is a cultivator from the Sea Flame sect of the North Sea. Hong Shikue was certain that he had succeeded in his plan. He didn't dare to expose the opponent's identity, because he was at a disadvantage now. However, in a fight between cultivators of the same level, even if he couldn't win, he could still escape. Hong Shikue didn't think that the two in front of him could stop him if he wanted to escape. However, once he exposed the opponent's identity, the cultivator from the Sea Flame sect would definitely fight to the death with Hong Shikue to protect his sect from being destroyed by the powerful power of the Crystal Palace. Sea Flame sect. In the eyes of the East Sea, this was at most a neutral sect. How dare they offend the Crystal Palace? Hong Shikue spread out his divine thoughts. While dealing with the attacks from Lu Ping and Qi Lianing, he looked around, looking for an opportunity to escape. When he returned, he must report to the higher-ups of his sect about the Sea Flame sect. He must let the North Sea Overturned Sea Gang take revenge on the Sea Flame sect. After the beast tide of the North Sea, the Sea Overturned Sea Gang was strangely hit by the main force of the beast tide. 2 of the 4 perfected masters of Chiu Yun Island were killed, and 1 was seriously injured. However, with the power of the Crystal Palace, the sects in the North Sea wouldn't dare to do anything to the Sea Overturned Sea Gang. Hong Shikui was multitasking. How could he escape from Lu Ping's eyes? Just as Hong Shikui found an opportunity and dodged Lu Ping's golden scale sword, the 2 jade bracelets collided. With a crisp ding, 2 waves of snow and a sea of fire erupted and surged toward Qi Lianying. Qi Lianying's expression changed. She quickly dodged, but she didn't expect the snow wave and the sea of fire, one hot and one cold, to collide. Suddenly, a vast power erupted. Qi Lianying's sleeves danced. At the same time, the green and red gauze on her body also spat out a green and red shield, wrapping Qi Lianying inside. The gauze on her body was actually a top-tier defensive celestial treasure. Qi Lianying hurriedly looked for Hong Shikui. However, after the snow and fire collided, a white mist was formed on the surface of the sea, blocking Qi Lianying's vision. Hong Shikui was nowhere to be seen. Qi Lianying rolled up her sleeves and drew a circle in the air. Then, she shook it outward, and the thick mist immediately dispersed in all directions. She just happened to see Hong Shikui's feet flashing with green and red light. He had already escaped in the direction where she was previously. Qi Lianying couldn't catch up with him. Don't let him escape. Qi Lianying was anxious.